Hi, I'm Trevor.
And I'm Kyle, and this is the third installment of our evening with Troy Duffy. A Troy Duffy crushed beer can is the Boondock Saints 2 from 2009. We have a hunch it was written in about a hard 2002 to 2003. Um, Considering what kind of person Troy Duffy is, it probably took a lot of convincing to get this movie off the ground. This is, of course, is the sequel to Boondock Saints 1. And yeah, go ahead, Trevor.
It's the second and only other film in Troy Duffy's filmography, not counting the documentary Overnight, which Kyle and I covered earlier this month. I will correct you, however. The full title of the film is The Boondock Saints, All Saints Day.
All Saints Day.
It did indeed come out in 2009. It does not take a genius to understand that the way this film got financed was largely on the strength of DVD sales, because the Boondock Saints has a cult following.
Mm-hmm.
It's well documented that it didn't it barely had a theatrical release. However, home media consumption of it and screenings and airings on cable networks and stuff was really prevalent throughout the 2000s. So I think it went into production around 2008 and came out in 2009. A Lionsgate production. I don't know what it is about late 2000s Lionsgate films, but they were into some trash. A lot of it is trash that I like Punisher Warzone, for instance. But man, I don't know. They were just cranking shit out back in the late 2000s. I think they still kind of are. It's kind of in their wheelhouse, but I've always liked that about Lionsgate. There's some funny connections that's popped up later on in the film that I'll make sure to mention. But yeah, I think this was written and directed by Troy Duffy. As Kyle mentioned, it does feel like it was probably written several years before it went into production. So Kyle, the first question that came to mind when I was watching this was why? Why did this need to happen?
This movie, or why did I make you watch it?
Both, you son of a bitch.
Well, Trevor, you and I both watched the first Boondock Saints, and I actually saw this movie in the theater, and I think I mentioned on one of the other episodes that I had snuck beer into the theater because I wasn't 21, and I fell asleep. And you watching this can completely understand why. I wanted you to watch it because I've been wanting you to watch it for a while, because it's one of my favorite, wow, that is bad movies. Now, it's not my favorite bad movie. St. Elmo's Fire is my favorite bad movie because it's an enjoyable bad. This is more like, I don't even know how to explain bad. It's awful.
It's strange bad.
It's strange bad. And the reason why I had to do it for the show is because after I watched the Overnight documentary, I'm like, we have to do something on this. It just, especially since March was coming up, St. Patrick's Day, I'm like, I feel like we should. I think you mentioned the evening with Troy Duffy, but I'm like, that's a really good idea.
Well, after going through this man's entire filmography,
Yeah.
I feel
A
like
to
I
B.
need. Yeah, literally A to B.
A to B.
I feel like I need to sit down and watch the Care Bears movie or something. It's been a deep, dark dive into this man's psychological profile, and it's I need to get out of Troy Duffy's head because I think I'm gonna start using words that you're not supposed to use in your daily life, and it's just a little bit depressing.
Yeah. I feel like I should watch something refined, a nice classic film, classic black and white, I don't know.
Yeah, I need a palate cleanser.
A palate cleanser.
Because you I mean, the expression goes what, you stare into the abyss and it stares right back.
Yeah, it's
that's
exactly what's happening.
Or what you ain't changing the devil devil changes you, to quote 8mm. Yeah, that's what I feel like right now, because we have spent the equivalent of an entire evening with Troy Duffy. I mean, 3 films, and it's starting to beat me up a bit.
Well, it's over now unless we can get that Boondock Saints Origins, which I'm hoping and praying that they can get off ground.
Did you get that Primo box yet?
The Primo box set. No, I did not get my Primo box set. I think I am gonna just go ahead and throw them some money. Like, hey, maybe it'll help. If not, hey, I lost $10. Big deal. If they're asking for anything over $30, they're out of their minds. But yeah, we'll just run through the plot real quick. So the brothers, after giving away their identity, shooting Yakavetta in the courtroom at the end of the last movie, they have left the country. They fled the country, and they're living in Ireland. And somebody stages a killing of a priest in order to entice them to come back to the United States. And then, for no reason whatsoever, they just start shooting people who are bad. And then eventually their dad shoots Peter Fonda, and that's the end of the movie. Did I miss anything, or?
I don't think that you did. I mean, there may be some details here and there, but I think it's very telling that you saw this movie in a dark, loud theater, and you fell asleep. Before we started recording, I had mentioned that I don't know that I've felt this like disengaged with a piece of media in a very long time. Like for me, like when I put on a movie, like I gotta set time aside, and I have to be like in a certain state of like mental awareness to do it, because it's something that I enjoy, and I don't like feeling that I'm enjoying a film passively, or taking in a film passively. I didn't enjoy this, but yeah, like I just found it very difficult to give a shit about anything that's happening in this. So like those fine details that you took special care to gloss over, a lot of those would have been lost to me if not for the fact that I was watching this for a podcast where I kind of pride myself on paying attention to some of those details.
This is the kind of movie that if I was not paying attention to a movie and it was just on, like if I was like I had The Counselor on in the background and I was just kind of watching the Javier Bardem parts or something, and then that movie was over and I was still not watching the TV and this came on, I would change it to a different movie to not pay attention to. That's how like annoying this movie is. Like this isn't even really a movie, I don't think. Like this was somebody's like this was just somebody's little passion project that wasn't released in theaters. But no, it was.
Parts of it do feel like it's not the script isn't a complete thought. It's just kind of Troy Duffy got financing, had enough of a script put together to go into production, and then just filmed scenes that he wanted to film.
Pretty much.
It's just like, hey, I got 3 bros in a car. Let's have them say stuff at each other.
Actually, rewatching this, Clifton Collins Jr., I actually enjoyed him more this time. He gave me some legit laughs. Now, I wanted to mention at the top here, I feel like this movie is more of a comedy, and you were mentioning tone before we started recording. Give me just a moment, sorry. Sorry about that. Yeah, so I feel like Clifton Collins Jr.'s character was pretty funny in this, and then I was having like a few laughs, and I'm like, oh, that was supposed to be for laughs. That was supposed to be for laughs. I'm like, is this a comedy technically?
Well, that was part of my difficulty in investing myself in this film, is that the tone is very difficult to pin down.
The first one had like, I guess it was more of a, I wouldn't say dark comedy, but the killing, like we said, like it wasn't heavy. It was kind of like almost justified. So in this movie, it wasn't really justified. I just feel like it was for laughs.
A lot of it for me had to do with the portrayal of the Saints, because like we keep wavering back and forth between like treating them with this like air of reverence, where again we have our church choir blasting like whenever something of any sort of emotional gravitas is happening, but then like before almost every instance of violence in the film, there's they're shown to be kind of clowns, like they're shown to be incompetent, and yet they continually succeed and have this like malicious murderous intent like buried deep within them. So it's very strange. It's like, am I supposed to be laughing at them? Because the movie doesn't seem to know which one. Like, am I supposed to think they're cool? Or is it cool because they keep winning despite being utterly incompetent?
If he had called this movie a comedy, I would give him a pass. Like, I think that I had a few laughs and giggles in here. I'm like, you know what? It wasn't a very good comedy, but at least he called it a comedy. But I don't think he's calling this a comedy.
Well, I mean, there is something to be said for, doing a sequel and, like, turning things upside down. Like, just saying, fuck it, I can acknowledge the stupid elements in the first film. Let's just throw them out the window and point and laugh at them. But they don't go that way 100%. So it makes it very confused.
Greenlee, like, I'll highlight my my legit laughs, but my first note on here is here we go. Do you wanna jump into this?
You mean our opening shots?
Yeah. You wanna jump? I can actually do Rocco's dialogue if you just want to set the scene, and I'll do Rocco's dialogue for you.
So what? We see Rocco walking down the street in the open air. He's got sunglasses on, and he's walking to a church.
And Rocco's dead, by the way.
Yeah, by the way, Rocco died in the previous film. So it was a little weird to see him start the film, like, as the first thing we see. But yeah, what was his dialogue here?
Okay, so we cut to Rocco walking down the street in his sunglasses, and he's dressed like a saint now for some reason. But he's like, in this world there are two kinds of people, doers and talkers. Talkers just talk, and doers do things because they do. And, if you're in a coffee shop, you're probably a talker, but you gotta be a doer if you're gonna be a doer. Yeah. That's the fucking dialogue, I swear to you.
Yeah, that is his opening monologue. I actually quoted one thing, like, word for word. All the rest of it is just coffee house bullshit.
Yeah, there was coffee in there. I knew that.
Yeah, coffee house bullshit. And I think you and I actually made mention of the concept of coffee talk in the previous episode.
I think this podcast is coffee talk.
Very much so. Very much so.
Actually,
so I guess we aren't doers.
Well, we're doing a podcast. What tea you got today? I've got a nice chamomile with some honey and a little bit of half and half.
Oh, I've got an English breakfast with like a quarter of coffee.
Nice.
Because I just had a little bit still in there, so I was like, yeah, let's pour some tea on that. Single life.
Fuck.
Whoops, forgot to clean my mug. Better pour some more shitting on it.
Yeah. Thank God I didn't drink while watching this, because I might have fallen asleep again. Like, I would have woken up at the end like, oh no, not again.
Oh no. And by the way, this film is 2 hours and 18 minutes long.
That is ridiculous. Well, we'll
ridiculous.
Get to why. I can tell you exactly why it's that long, which is why Godfather 2 is the longest of the Godfather movies.
Yeah. But yeah, I saw, I rented this off of Amazon, by the way.
It was still on Netflix.
There is a director's cut.
Oh my God, there is? You didn't watch the director's cut?
I didn't watch the director's cut because the length, I was like 2 hours and 18 minutes is asking a lot. But I noticed that the director's cut didn't have any additional minutes added to it. So I didn't know what to make of that. And I don't think it's an actual director's cut. I have a feeling it's just like extra violence. And this movie isn't very violent, so
no.
What am I paying for? But yeah, the opening monologue with Rocco talking about doers immediately brought to mind Pain and Gain.
Oh, I haven't seen it. I have not rewatched it. I'm saving it. I'm saving it for when I completely remember nothing about that movie.
Okay, well, I'll set you back a couple weeks here and just make mention of Dr. Ken shows up, Ken Jeong. Mm-hmm. He shows up as a motivational speaker in Pain and Gain, and he imparts this concept of being a doer to Marky Mark. And they have this big scene where this is like the catalyst that gets him started on his path to stupidity and darkness. He embraces this concept of being a doer. So I was like, oh, I guess Rocco is at the conference too. In heaven or hell or wherever he ended up. But yeah, it comes across as, again, we talked about the Holden Caulfield, like, young man with a chip on his shoulder kind of monologue. Where it's just like, yeah, people talk a lot and they don't do stuff. So people that talk suck unless they do stuff. At which point they become a doer, which makes them a good guy, which makes them a man.
Yeah.
And we'll get to man later on.
Oh, yeah, we'll get to that.
But then we cut to Ireland, and my note here says Ireland ... when?
Yeah.
Because I was like, is this the 1800s or 1600s or something?
Sean Patrick Flannery looks like he just woke up, and he looks like he's had a 2-day drinking bender, and he just got some sleep, and he slept for like 12 hours. He looks like hungover as shit. Like he's just not sleeping.
Not to utterly derail things right off the bat, but we need to talk about his appearance in this film. Because I don't know how old he was. I'm guessing he was in his 40s by then. But he looked like a Baldwin. To me, he looked a little bit like Steven. Maybe Alec, like Alec now.
Alec
not Alec in 2009, but like Alec Baldwin now.
Yeah.
But yeah, like his face is kind of puffy and his eyes have narrowed.
I've had this look on me. I've had this look on me when if I had some drinks and then I don't get very good sleep that night, and then I sleep for like 10.5 to 12 hours the next night, and it's just like it's too much sleep. He just looks like he just got too much sleep.
Oh man, that needs to be a skit, like hangover face. And it's like it's like you start out like shots of somebody, some young guy, young handsome guy in a bar getting blasted. Then he wakes up and he's Alec Baldwin until he like hydrates and then he like turns back into himself.
I mean,
so Alec Baldwin face is hangover face.
I mean, what's his face? Norman Reedus actually looks like present day. What's that little shit's name? I forgot. John Connor. Edward Furlong.
Yeah.
He actually looks like a full-blown Edward Furlong here.
I want to bet. I want to say that he has better teeth, but we'll see.
Probably. Yeah, they are in Ireland. Maybe in this century. It's probably supposed to be the former one. I don't think Troy understands what Ireland is.
I was half expecting Connor and Duncan MacLeod to run up on them or something, because like the combination of their appearance and their surroundings and even the guns they're carrying.
Yeah,
it looks like this is taking place in like colonial times or something.
Well, I mean, they're squatting, but they're also known Irishmen squatting in Ireland. So maybe this is just how you squat in Ireland. I don't really know. Like you just go completely off the grid and you just hang out with. This is not healthy, man. You cannot be living in a small house with your dad and brother, just taking care of sheep, drinking whiskey with dinner and smoking cigarettes. Those guys are going to be dead in 10 years if this...
Oh, yeah. No, they would pickle their livers and, if not, like, punch each other to death or something.
What are they even going to talk about? They don't have a radio.
They don't have shit to talk about.
They have... they already know everything about each other. Their dad's already told them all of his prison stories. They don't have a TV. They have a fireplace and bottles of whiskey. How are they getting the whiskey?
Yeah, and later on we learned that like Dad didn't even bother to tell them some of the more exciting stories of his youth. So they had nothing but prison stories the entire time.
Nothing but prison.
Oh yeah, still no mention of Mom, by the way.
Nah.
Like barely.
Yeah, why did they go hang out with their mom? Jeez.
I think she's supposed to be dead or something. Although, you know, the cut footage from the first film, I guess maybe that was something they were waffling on.
Well, she wasn't going to make it much long after that. I'm just saying.
But yeah, both of the McManus brothers, I can't remember their names, but at least one of them's Murphy.
Connor and Murphy.
Connor and Murphy. The McManuses, Sean Patrick Flannery and Norman Reedus. They both have Rip Van Winkle beards, long hair.
Yeah.
They're sheep herders. They're living with their da. Played by Billy Connolly, and
who looks the exact same. He looks the exact same from the first.
Yeah,
movie.
He's aged very well.
Very well.
I guess he dropped off the face of the earth recently and like had a health scare or something, but he gave like one of those "I'm not dead, I'm just very badly burned."
Are they staying in the house from the witch?
It looks like it.
It looks exactly like it.
we get some narration here that is very awkward because it's all Billy Connolly, and he's just saying poetic shit that doesn't have much to do with anything. But there was one decent quote in there: "Peace is the enemy of memory."
Whatever.
That's a decent quote. Troy Duffy does have like weird poetic isms in him.
It was probably written by his much smarter brother.
I don't know about that, but he has this like way with words where it sounds cool, so that's good enough to get it into the movie. But the artificiality of it is what hurts it. It comes across as pretentious as opposed to organic. And something like that is not something most people say in their daily life.
No.
Anyway, it's nothing but voiceover for a few minutes, and it's all like Billy Connolly talking about how his boys are like boiling under the surface or something, and they have this really awkward dinner together. No one says a fucking word.
No.
It's just three dirty Irishmen eating dinner together. And then not Tom Wilkins shows up.
Well, I have a can of beans. Something's happened.
Can of beans? Something's happened?
Yeah. Can of beans. They're just eating beans out of a can, and then priest shows up.
Yeah, not Tom Wilkins. That's why I was calling him, because he looks kind of like Tom Wilkins, but he is most certainly not Tom Wilkins. Yeah, he makes mention of something has happened, and then I believe we just cut to like some shadowy footage of what actually happened.
Yeah.
And it's in Boston, and we get this weird, some kind of throat singing. So it could be like...
Oh, yeah, I was going to mention that.
It's like, it's either Mongolian or Tibetan or something.
Yeah.
And it's, again, like they did with the Catholic Church choir stuff. It's like, yeah, it sounds important.
Yeah.
Sure, we'll go with that. It's like, it's totally out of place, but whatever. In the end, some shadowy figure with a crew cut kills a priest in his own church in Boston.
Yeah. But the priest is like, yeah, they're framing the boys. He's not even Irish, is he? They're framing
I
the
think he is.
Is he Irish?
I think he is.
Oh, yeah. They're framing the boys. They're making it look like they killed him, but they couldn't have because they're here. Billy Collins like, yeah, well, he's just trying to rile him up and trying to get him to go back. Problem is, because of how badass they are, it's gonna work. So we cut to them showering in a barn, and like there's a way for you to edit a scene like this to show like these guys are like super poor, they're roughing it out there. Brokeback Mountain, I don't know if you've seen it, but there's a scene where Jake Gyllenhaal he's doing a sheep drive or a cattle drive with Heath Ledger's character, and because where they're up in the mountains and it's cold, he has to just rough it. He's naked in a creek. The scene is serving something else, but essentially he's naked in a creek doing his laundry and washing himself. He's roughing it, and it was a good shot. You understand what's happening. This, on the other hand, we're like getting jazzed up while we see two dudes' asses all soapy. Like, yeah, here we go. Like the music kicks in. We get like these really quick zoom in on their tattoos and everything. Like, oh, this is awesome. Two naked dudes are about to go kill some people. And I think he put it in here because he edited out that scene that we talked about with his mom in that first movie. We would have gotten to see both of them naked, but that got cut out of the movie, so we needed to put it in the second one.
Yeah, maybe he was like, it was very important to him, and he was upset with the studio. That's like, you cut out that man butt. Both of those man butts.
Fuck! Get them.
Like, the Boondock Saints is not complete if there is not man butt. They are twin brothers, goddammit.
I need 4 Snow White ass cheeks with suds on them, okay? 4. Get them lined up.
Interesting use of male nudity. Not sure what it was meant to convey. This is the first of what you and I have been referring to as like Steven Seagal speeches. There were some instances of those in the first Boondock Saints, and this is the first of them of many in this film. Many. What we mean by Steven Seagal speech is Steven Seagal has this thing that happens in a lot of his movies where someone shows up, that knows him or knows of his reputation and has to dump exposition about how awesome he is. And like On Deadly Ground has my favorite example of it, where it's just Arlie Army talking to the other expendable thugs at this oil rig, and just going on and on and on about how amazingly badass Steven Seagal is, while we keep cutting back to him killing people in amazing fashion. It's essentially what Richard Crenna did in the first Rambo and all other subsequent Rambo films. Basically, it's just somebody shows up, talks up the badassery, the badass elements of our central character, whatever.
Speaking of which, Detective Bloom, Julie Benz in this movie, she was in that Rambo movie, that brutally violent Rambo movie.
You beat me to it, but I wanted to point out that I feel like Julie Benz was on contract with Lionsgate, because within probably less than 3 years, she did this, Rambo, and Punisher Warzone.
I forgot about that.
She must have had like a multi-picture deal with them or something.
She's in 2 of my favorite bad movies.
Good for you, Julie Benz.
Good job. Couldn't make the St. Elmo's fire cut, though. That's fine. Their tattoos, I don't want to get into it too much, but it's stupid. They have half of Jesus on top of one of the brothers' back, and then for some reason... Who did this tattoo? They have the other half of Jesus on the other brother's back. Who did this tattoo? Their dad had to do this tattoo. Do they have a tattoo guy in Ireland that knows where they're hanging out?
I mean, we see them doing tattoos on each other, so maybe that's how they did it.
But they look the exact same. So who drew it? I need to know who drew it.
It's a complicated series of mirrors, Kyle.
I was thinking maybe they did it like Liechtenstein. Liechtenstein would take pieces from comic books and blow them up giant and then paint them in. So maybe they had like a projector and he had to just like stand still. And maybe
they had it overhead in the shack that they're living in.
Yeah, they had.
He just like keeps whipping his head over to the side to like, do I got it? Do I got it?
Doc, can we get a TV in here? No, need a projector. For the projector.
Yeah, they bought a generator and an overhead projector just so they could tattoo each other's backs. All the while Dawes just like, oh my god, my fucking shithead sons.
I would like it if
they
go for it.
I was just gonna say they shave with knives, because that's what cool people do. They shave their beards very cleanly, by the way, with knives, and they wash themselves up. When they first leave the shack to go clean themselves up and get ready for killing, the door close sound effect that they use is like the stock door noise. It's like, it's so pathetic.
Troy,
they also
door.
They do the John Wick thing, where they like dig up their guns, I guess,
and a shit ton of money
that they probably could have been using, but whatever. And they get their super gaudy necklaces that I'm sure somebody out there wears a replica of that somewhere.
Yeah, a priest.
No, not like that, dude. These things are massive.
That's what I'm saying. The priest is the only one that has like the leisure time and the space to pull off a necklace that big.
Priest bling.
Yeah.
And by the way, this whole time, so they wash their butts, they shave with knives. They dig a hole in the backyard to retrieve their weapons. They come back to the shack, and the father's still there. It's like what the fuck? Like, how long has he been waiting? Like, or was he waiting? Billy Connolly the whole time's like, you gonna leave? Like, you came here with bad news. Usually you don't stick around too long after that.
They probably just hit the hot spots in the shower. Balls, armpits, feet, just real quick. It was actually a much shorter shower than we were given the impression of.
But shaving with knives.
Yeah, and they do a really good job.
Fantastic job.
The music is awful in this movie. I think Ghost Rider, like I hated the music in not Ghost Rider, Drive Angry. The music was bad in that, but it's so much worse in this, in my opinion.
Yeah, it doesn't help that a lot of the music tracks in this have lyrics, which I find very distracting.
If you're going to do that, it needs to be either I can't understand what it's saying, or I know these lyrics like by heart, like Immigrant Song or like something by AC/DC. Like I know what's happening. I don't need to hear it. Not a new song. Don't introduce a new song while I'm trying to pay attention to something else.
Well, a thing that I could be totally off base saying this, but a thing that I notice sometimes with like inexperienced directors or people working on low budgets that have to crank shit out fast is editing to music is always preferable because the music can guide your edits. Mm-hmm. Like the rhythm of the song itself can change your editing style. It can lay the path out for you.
Did you know that there's no music when the Tyrannosaurus comes in Jurassic Park? I just finished reading the book and I had to watch the movie, and I just realized 2 days ago, no music when the T-Rex comes in.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
I had to say that before I forgot. I apologize, but
no, I mean you're referencing Spielberg, a fantastic director who, if memory serves, has had a lady editor that he's been working with probably since the 70s.
She's brilliant.
I don't know if he's still working with her, but I know he worked with her for a very long time, and she was responsible for cutting together some of the best movies of all time.
She might be the greatest editor of all time because Jurassic Park's the greatest movie of all time.
I don't know. You might get some pushback on that, but it's a very, very, very good film.
Fuck you! You want to fight Jurassic Park?
all the more extraordinary given that it was like the B movie while he was working on Schindler's List.
That's crazy.
Like he was doing both at the same time.
Is there a documentary about that? I would love to watch a documentary on how he was filming Schindler's List, which is fantastic, or to quote Joey Diaz, tremendous.
It's tremendous.
It's tremendous.
Joe Rogan is tremendous. Joe Rogan.
Yeah, it's really good. And then Jurassic Park, which I love, and I would love to see some deleted scenes, some things that just didn't make it in there, but I don't know if it's there yet. I don't know if we've got it.
I have the Blu-ray. I know it has a lot of special effects tests that you might be interested in seeing, because initially they were considering doing stop motion because CGI was not proven yet. Like it had been used in movies. It had been used. Like Young Sherlock Holmes, I think, is noted as being like the first instance of a CGI figure integrated with live action footage. But it wasn't proven when they first went into like pre-production for it. So it's like we might have to do it this way. And the test footage looked pretty cool.
The CGI in Jurassic Park holds up for the most part. There's a few where I caught it and like, it doesn't look that great. But if you would have done some stop motion in there, whew, I can't imagine how awesome.
I think it's better as it is, but it just goes to show you how much prep, like shooting good plates and taking into consideration angles and lighting on the set, like so you can get your animators good material to work from. And, coordinate with them before you even get the camera out there. Like months, years before you even set up the camera. That's how it's supposed to be done. Nowadays, you can cheat, though. Things can be done more by the seat of your pants because you can outsource each individual shot to hundreds of other animation studios. That's why those Marvel movies have credits that run on for 20 minutes. Anyway, we should probably talk about something that isn't Jurassic Park.
This is hard to talk about.
The point that I was trying to make about editing was that, there's a lot of brief montages in this movie that are definitely cut to the song. And the butt washing, the edits there, they do this. Yeah, it's like sultry guitars.
Dude, the bar band is opening up. Like that's what. Please welcome the drunk dicks, and then they
please welcome butt washers and the drunk dicks.
And they just kick in with that nice count. There we go. Butts.
Yeah.
So
they do that weird strobe edit that I despise. Like I absolutely detest like strobe editing. One of the worst examples that comes to mind is the Peter Jackson King Kong.
Oh, I haven't. I've seen it the one time. I'm probably not going to watch it again.
Okay, well maybe I'll send you a clip from it just so you can know what I'm talking about. It's slow motion but choppy.
Yeah,
and it looks like somebody fucked up. Like it looks like someone's doing something wrong.
It feels is it kind of like a Sam Raimi kind of quick zoom close up kind of deal, but shitty? Is that what you're getting at?
It looks like there are frames missing because slow motion is supposed to be smooth.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
But it looks like
Yeah.
it looks like my old like DV cam footage when it was corrupted in the editor would look like. But yeah, that brings us to the title card after they've armed up.
Have they gotten on the boat, or did we get to Boston? Do we actually get to Boston first?
They get to the boat in a minute here. So we cut from the title cards, which are just, I think it's just the Boondock Saints 2, All Saints Day, white text on black title cards.
Yeah.
Attempt at class. Attempt. And then we get some news report footage, very similar to the end of the previous film, where it's just like a news reporter standing outside the church where the priest was killed, talking about, hey, this is pretty similar to stuff that happened a long time ago in Boston. And we're reintroduced to the detectives from the previous film. I think they're all the same actors.
Yeah, they are.
Greenlee and the Greek guy I recognized, but the third guy, like the normal guy, he was less familiar to me.
Yes, so honestly, like the Greek guy is overacting and really opening up his eyes in this movie. Greenlee has like just turned up the dumb. Like he's gone like late series Joey Tribbiani. Like he's way dumber in this movie. And then the other cop is actually doing a pretty decent job, I think.
Yeah, he's the normal one. Like,
yeah,
he's the Leonardo. Like he's competent. He's not the funny guy. We got two other guys to do that. Greenlee's hairline's starting to go, by the way.
Yeah, what are you gonna do?
And then they're like freaking out a bit because their fear is that now that if the Boondock Saints case gets reopened, they fear that they'll be implicated as having assisted them.
Yes, because they assisted in that courtroom shooting of Yakoveta.
I only saw the Greek guy, but I guess all three. It's
They all-
implied that all three of them helped out in some way. Maybe just by being aware of it and not doing anything about it.
And then we get some hardcore dick talk about getting raped in prison. So they're super scared, and they're going over they're just talking like back and forth really loud. And then I think one of the beat cops comes in and says, "Hey, the FBI's here," and they're like, "All right, we'll be on in a sec."
Yeah, and we get a weird cut here because they're told that the FBI's coming, and then we get our second Steven Seagal exposition dump here, where they start going back and forth with each other, the detectives, because they're given the FBI agent's name, special agent in charge, Bloom.
Yeah.
Special agent Eunice Bloom. They go back and forth about how she was like specially assigned to this case. She was Smecker, Willem Dafoe's character from the previous films, like protege, and she's like this super badass FBI agent. So they're kind of shaking in their boots, and then we cut to a tanker at night.
Yeah.
It's like we were just in Boston in daytime, and now we're tanker at night. Sure.
Agent Bloom, played by Julie Benz, says a bunch of dumb shit, and
we're not there yet, actually.
She hasn't even said the dumb shit yet. Okay.
I don't think she. No, this is editing shit. This really threw me off because what happens is we're talking about her. We're told
right,
she's coming.
Yeah.
And then we go to the boat, and then we go back.
You're right, because I've got barge fight, Clifton Collins Jr., and then Duffy is trying to do some dialogue at this time, which is the Julie Benz. So yeah, we get to the barge, and the boys have themselves, the police have themselves an RV. The boys have themselves a little tent corner, and there's some commotion going on in the mess hall, we'll say, just where everybody's hanging out. And there's a big old piece of beef, looking pretty pissed off in Russian, and it seems as though he's about to fight somebody. Who's he gonna fight, Trevor? Is it Steven Seagal?
Well, it's Lemmy from Motorhead, but Mexican. It is Clifton Collins Jr., who is sporting a haircut.
It's awful.
Could you help me explain it?
It's a Black Dog the Bounty Hunter haircut with a little bit more emphasis on the mullet aspect, if that's possible.
So more party, less serious up front. Okay.
Yeah, way less serious, way less business going on,
Okay.
way more party.
Thank you for correcting me. I forgot that phrase. But yeah, he is standing opposite this gigantic, apparently French man.
Oh, French.
Apparently, most of the crew here are French. But then there's this random Mexican fella.
Yeah.
And everybody's placing bets. The Saints bet on Clifton Collins Jr. at some point. But it needs to be noted here that Mr. Collins Jr. Has handcuffs on, and his hands are behind his back. And the way this fight starts out is the big French guy comes out swinging. Collins Jr. is like ducking and slipping everything. Doesn't appear like he's in too much danger. And before he even lands a blow on this large French gentleman is when the McManuses bet on him. So I guess they were so impressed with his squirreliness that they saw fit to take their pocket money and bet it on him. I mean, it pays off, but
it does. It pays off, you know. They don't need the money. I don't know why they were doing this. It was just, I guess it's for funsies.
Sure, why not?
But yeah, Clifton Collins Jr. Gets his handcuffs out in front of him, and he ends up basically doing some jujitsu on this big fella, and makes him tap out. And go ahead.
You think Troy Duffy's a fan of MMA?
Trevor, I would be shocked if he wasn't a fan of MMA.
Just checking.
And this is also when MMA was like, it was building. Like, it wasn't even at the peak yet. Like, it was building. It was huge at the time. So yeah, he's watched some MMA.
Yeah, I was about to say he seems the type. But yeah, he wins via like an arm bar or something.
Yeah.
And he exchanges some interesting phrases back and forth with this French guy.
Yeah, I didn't catch him.
He's just talking about how like he makes it known. He makes sure everybody in the cheap seats knows I am Mexican. And then he's talking about how Mexicans are the toughest people on the planet. And he says to the French guy, "Think about it, man. Tabasco sauce? What kind of fucked up people would invent that shit?" I'm like, okay.
Jesus.
Yeah. Just in case you didn't know he's Mexican, now you do. And then we cut from this tanker at night back to the church in Boston in the daytime, and now Miss Bloom shows up.
Yeah, so this is where she's doing some dialogue. She's just talking about how smart she is and how smart people are
she's
dumb.
Introduced feet first.
Oh yeah, feet first.
Very Tarantino-esque.
She's a bombshell. I'm a huge fan of Julie Benz. Like, she's great.
I get a bit of a Nicole Kidman vibe from her, but without the exoticism, I guess.
I'm a big Nicole Kidman fan as well.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, I don't remember all the things she says, but basically she's like, I think the boys are. We cannot. Okay, there's way more deconstructing crime scenes here, and we cannot go through each and every one of them. We'll be here for 3 fucking hours. He ramped up the breaking down. I think there's like 5 in here. I think it's ridiculous.
They're not any more detailed than they were in the previous film, but they're more numerous.
Yeah,
and tedious as well, because her process just isn't as well executed as Smecker's was.
No.
Because we pointed out that, like, you know, a little bit of applause for Troy Duffy. Like, in terms of editing, we did see a progression in the style of crime scene investigation. This one is just kind of like haphazard and not terribly engaging.
No, not at
we
all.
know that she's very competent, but that's about it. It's not terribly interesting. But yeah, she shows up. She starts swinging dick immediately, and her whole shtick. And I do think it's a shtick, it's a gimmick, is that she's this, like, well-spoken, has a pleasant demeanor. She has, like, a thick New Orleans accent, I think. She really leans heavy into it. And so she has this, like, demeanor where she's very polite and well-spoken, but if you actually listen to the words that are being said, it's very, like, coarse language, and she's basically one of the guys, but she takes advantage of the fact that she's a lady.
Think of like a more attractive Holly Hunter that stopped going to church. I think that's the
Yeah,
best way to put it.
Very good, very good. Yeah, but yeah. The gimmick is that she has a like pretty welcoming presentation, but she's
rough around the edges.
She's rugged. She's rough around the edges. So in short, I'm guessing this is like Troy Duffy's dream woman or something. It's like, oh, she's intellectual, but she can like go to the bar with me and get into fights.
So she's explaining to the boys after she does her headphones, deconstructing the scene, and she points out that this wasn't the Saints. This is completely different. We get a first of a few first movie flashbacks. Unacceptable. You can't do it. You cannot do it at all. I will say, you know what was so cool about Kill Bill and Kill Bill 2, Volume 1, Volume 2, is that I don't know which one is which. Like, I'll think back to scenes that I've seen, like killing the crazy 88. I don't remember which movie that was in. Or when she kills
kidding me?
Vivica A. Fox. Like, I don't remember which.
Are you kidding me, Kyle?
I don't remember.
Those are two very distinct films.
No, they blend completely together for me. I cannot tell you the difference.
Are you kidding me?
No. It's the same fucking thing.
The first one to me is immensely more watchable than the second one.
They're both good.
They're both very good, but the hurrah moments mostly happen in the first one.
Gotcha. Well, it's supposed to go in like this, just like. But
one of these days, I want to see the Japanese cut of the Crazy 88's fight because apparently it was colorized.
Okay.
They had to make it black and white for censorship reasons.
Because we're pussies over here. We can't handle.
We're a bunch of pussies. Can't handle 88 people being delimbed.
I don't even think he got to drop the N-bomb in Kill Bill or Kill Bill 2. So he was really pissed about not being able to show the blood.
He's like, "Oh, I'm gonna kill a lot of people in this one."
So yeah,
but we do get the first. We get a retarded mentioned here during the scene, I believe.
So stupid.
I am so fucking smart that I make smart people feel retarded. And this is also the first instance of a bit of gay panic in the movie. And that's very important because you had mentioned in the last review that was handled decently.
The gay panic in this movie is, I think, a response to maybe there's a decently written gay character partially leading the movie. Like I would almost say that he's leading that movie.
Dude, his face is
front and center.
About 80% of that poster.
I will say he's a gay leading man, written decently, and you get some side cock and we don't get any gay. I don't think there's any gay jokes in that first movie.
Not that I can recall.
No. In this movie, it's literally like I might have mentioned before. I put slashes when I heard dick talk, not gay, and that's gay, and racist. Like, I just kept little tallies along the way. There's at least 6 instances where they're like, that's gay. 2 words, not gay. But yeah, there's a weird, like, a reverse in this movie where he was...
I don't know what happened here, because it's funny coming from the same guy.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what happened, but yeah, they're terrified in this movie.
Oh yeah, no, they got a serious case of the not gays, and the first instance of this comes from Greenlee, when they meet Agent Bloom, a very conventionally attractive woman.
Yes.
She says, "Oh, I've heard about you, Greenlee. You're the funny one," and he very quickly says, "Funny as in haha, not funny as in gay."
Yeah. Like,
who's like she wasn't going there with that, but okay, thanks for pointing it out.
Who's ever said, "Oh, you're the funny one"? Oh, you mean the gay one? No one's ever said that.
I don't think it's ever been misinterpreted that way in the history of mankind.
Never.
It's like you're a funny guy. I like you. It's like, you call me gay, bro? That's something you see every day.
So yeah, we get our first movie flashback. She tells them that it's not them, and they're also afraid of her because they think that she's gonna catch on to them being accomplices, basically.
Yeah, the editing of the crime scene investigation is a little funky. It needs to be said that we do have some decent callbacks to the previous film, where Smecker would listen to classical music on his Walkman when he was doing his CSI thing. Bloom has earplugs, so she doesn't listen to music. And then later on, we see Greenlee listening to, I think,
Yeah.
Night Ranger.
Yeah.
which was pretty fucking great. That was pretty fucking great.
He's legit funny.
He's legit funny.
Yeah, I
But
enjoy him.
the edits during this initial crime scene investigation are dumb. We get the sound of a heartbeat, and then we keep fading to black, and she keeps teleporting around the room, and it's not visually engaging. It's just jarring and confusing. And she, through some shenanigans, deduces that we're looking for a very short left-handed man. By the way, we also cut back to the McManuses saving Clifton Collins Jr. It's a nothing little scene, so I'm not going to go into detail, but basically some French guys get mad at him because apparently he was supposed to lose that fight, and the McManuses MMA him to safety, and now they're all buddies.
Yeah.
And he drops the line.
We're going to have to gloss over a lot in here.
There's a lot of stupid that doesn't need to be put under the magnifying glass. Although he does say supersized order of freedom fries after, I think, kicking someone while they're down. It's like, are you sure this is 2009?
Well, yeah.
I mean, are we in Obama territory by the time this came out?
No, we were riding Bush hard when this was written.
When this was written.
Yeah. I don't need to make any rewrites. It's fine. So we get to the mob here. There's some pretty funny stuff with the mob. But first things first is the mob boss is Judd Nelson playing Yakovetta's son, which I'm just going to refer to as Yakovetta in this, or you can refer to him as Judd Nelson. Doesn't matter. You know what we're talking about. So he's basically talking to his crew, which is almost zero Italians. There might be one dude, but almost zero. I think this was filmed in Canada for the most part. I was looking on the IMDb. I think this was mostly Canada. Maybe one or two shots someplace else, but probably not.
I think that was the case in the first movie too.
Yeah, there was a lot of Canada.
Mm-hmm. It's just cheaper.
But yeah, this is the worst mob ever. Because he's like, I know you guys have been waking up in cold sweats over these guys. I'm like, cold sweats over the Saints who haven't been in Boston in 10 years? Wow, you guys are just terrible. Like, this is awful. You're the worst mob ever.
Judd Nelson, I think, is channeling a little bit of Pacino here, or at least trying to. I got a little bit of a Big Boy Caprice vibe from him, nice. But not as over the top. He's trying. He's doing something, although he's in maybe 3 scenes in this entire movie.
Yeah.
Which is a little disappointing. I would have preferred to have had more of him. This entire scene feels lifted directly from The Untouchables.
Trevor, it is. It's 100% lifted from The Untouchables.
Yeah.
That's the first movie I have written on here.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. And for you listening out there, I kept a running list of all the movies that Troy Duffy watched before he wrote this script.
So we have The Untouchables.
Untouchables.
Like, no doubt. Judd Nelson's character's gimmick is that he misuses words.
Yeah.
I think when he's calling the meeting, he just makes up some gibberish words. He attempts to have like a diverse vocabulary, but he just misuses words, and at some point one of his subordinates corrects him. I noticed in the background there is a fellow with a shitty wig, or at least just shitty hair in the background, and it took me a second to recognize who it was, because at first I actually thought it was Troy Duffy. It is Rob Wells from the Trailer Park Boys.
Yes, I have him written down later.
Yeah, he actually
Ricky
plays a pivotal role in this film. I was just like, what is he doing back there? Like, you can't have that hair and not stand out.
I was really getting into that show, but Steph was just not feeling it, and I haven't got a chance to watch it on my own, but I want to keep watching the Trailer Park Boys. But yeah, Ricky.
Worth your time. Yeah, Ricky is in this movie in a fairly prominent role.
I love their landlord. He's Mr. What's his name?
I can't remember, but
Mr. Don. It's something.
It's a great show. Yeah, I haven't watched as much of it as I think I'd like to, but what I've seen, I liked quite a bit. But yeah, at some point, I think Ricky hands Judd Nelson a salami, and he uses it to clobber one of his one of his subordinates who had corrected him.
He fucks him up. He puts him in the hospital with a salami. How is that possible?
I don't know. Like, maybe
not.
he used to be a Major League Baseball player or something. He's got a hell of a swing.
Andre the Giant could put you in the hospital with a salami. That's the only person that could wield enough force to fuck you up with a salami.
I feel like that's something somebody needs to Google. Like, who could knock someone out with a salami?
I mean,
Google comes back with, Andre the Giant, of course.
Andre the Giant and maybe The Rock. I think The Rock is the closest thing we've got to the Giant at this point.
Well, The Rock now, not The Rock in, like, the year 2000.
I don't know. He was probably... No. Rock 2000 more like it, because he was actually carrying a bit more muscle.
He was thick, yeah.
Yeah.
He had, like, a bit of a power belly going.
Yeah.
Now he's like tight Rock. But yeah, very, very similar to the scene in The Untouchables where Robert De Niro as Al Capone clobbers a guy to death with a bat.
Yeah.
Although this guy survives because it is just a salami, even though he got his whole face smashed in. It is just a salami. But yeah, we cut back to the boat.
Yeah, my next they go back to the boat and they're like Clifton Collins Jr. is telling them like, "Hey man, I'm your connection in Boston. I'm going to go with you guys. I'm going to show you where everybody's at." It's basically like Rocco telling them like, "Hey, I know where everybody's at. I'll help you kill them and show you who to kill." And Clifton Collins Jr. is basically doing the same thing in this movie. He's their new Rocco.
Yeah, definitely. In fact, we make explicit reference to Rocco in comparison to him a little bit later in the movie. This is also where we get more gay panic, where we see Norman Reedus. I think he's trying to do a tattoo on Sean Patrick Flannery's back, and he mentioned something about like wanting to dye his hair.
Yeah,
I think to be less conspicuous or something when they get to Boston, and Sean Patrick Flannery just like spirals off into this tangent. Just what I don't even want to say the whole thing, but basically he uses the F gay word.
Yeah.
and a few other things. And during this is when Clifton Collins walks in on them and they do this prank that I think they kind of did to Rocco, where they pretend that they're going to kill him. Yeah. And then they don't, and then they all laugh like a bunch of 5-year-olds. They're seriously immature. And yeah, Clifton Collins Jr. wants to join them. His character's name is Romeo, by the way. Mm-hmm. And he makes explicit reference to the first Godfather film. He says, like, he makes reference to the horse head appearing in someone's bed. And then we see a black cat with a priest collar walk by them. They freak out a little bit, end scene. This cat... I don't know what the fuck this cat is there for, but it keeps showing up, and it's a little infuriating.
Do you remember how funny it was when the cat got shot in the first movie? Yeah, that's what they keep doing.
Is that it?
Yeah, that's it. It's just.
Are you serious?
Yeah. What other reason could there be?
I don't know, Kyle. I'm actually asking.
When the cat comes across the bar when they're with Rocco, it's the same thing. It's like, yeah, the cat that they killed in the first movie that he accidentally killed.
That's so weird, because the cat shows up multiple times in the movie.
It was that good of a gag that they have to keep bringing up how great of a gag it was that they shot a cat. This is a man who's been pouring booze on his brain for about 10 years. Yeah, he's like, it's going to be so funny. It's going to be so awesome. Like,
it's like, actually, I don't know how many people even remember the cat.
Yeah. I have a note down here, and I have a question mark. Riots? Was somebody mentioning?
Oh, yeah. We cut back to Boston, and the police are having a little conference. So our detectives and Julie Benz, they all have like a corkboard or some shit, like with a bunch of photos posted up, and they're going on about how and why this is likely the Yakovetic family that killed the priest to get back at the Boondock Saints or something. And I believe the police commissioner or chief, I'm not sure what rank he holds, but he is in the room as well, and he's basically saying tread lightly because these Saints figures have pretty public profile, and he makes mention of the fact that like if we don't go about things in the right fashion, we could be talking like riots, like riot gear at Celtics games, like
Absolutely
that
not.
level of public unrest. I'm like, nah, I'm pretty sure they wouldn't care that much.
No one's
whatever.
going to give a shit.
Yeah. And then we cut to the hitman in a hotel room, and he has shoes with lifts in them.
Okay, yeah, so the guy has, he has what Joe Pesci's character had in Goodfellas. He's got the short man complex where he has to overcompensate for his height. That's the whole thing behind him. Every scene we see, he's like, I'm short, and I hate that I'm short. But, yeah.
Yeah, it's an awkward little scene. It's just him standing in front of a mirror and, like, giving himself a little smile when he sees that he's slightly taller wearing these shoes. And that's the scene. That is the scene. Then we get a decent transition here where we're with the cops, and I think the commissioner and Julie Benz have gone for a walk because she has this thing where she likes to be escorted. So he, takes her by the arm, and they walk off down the hallway to talk shop, and it leaves the detectives to sweat in the room by themselves. And they do a little bit of like Steven Seagal speech here, like talking up how like, oh, the Saints are definitely coming, like they're gonna protect their namesake and go off and kill a whole bunch of people. And then we immediately just like cut to them in a shitty VW Beetle with Clifton Collins Jr. It's a nice little transition because it is humorous, where it's like we're talking about how awesome these guys are, and then we see them in these unfortunate circumstances.
Yeah. Where do they go meet his uncle? Do they go meet?
They're head to the docks.
They're just okay. They're gonna go straight to the docks to kill the Chinese people.
Yeah, because I guess that's justified.
Yeah. There's no reason we get. There's like Yakovet is working with the Chinese. I guess they're supposed to be connected. Here's our third movie reference, The Departed, which would have been out by the time he was writing this, and I'm sure he's seen a billion times. But yeah, I can't go through the whole thing, but this whole sequence is like, it feels like it's 10 minutes long because they plan it kinda, and then they go through it. They go through what they think is gonna happen, and then we find out later what actually happens. But
yeah, similar to how the first film worked, although they break their own rules here a couple times. But in the first film, they had that theme where every instance of violence of the Saints springing into action or whatever, we would cut away from it, view the crime scene investigation of the aftermath, and then cut back to what actually happened. In this instance, the McManuses and Romeo, they're like crouched behind a wall, and they're planning what they're going to do. And I guess Sean Patrick Flannery comes up with the plan. But the way it's presented to us up front is in this heavily stylized, it's supposed to be like a 70s exploitation style. Like they even apply like a film grain effect. Yeah. So it looks like crappy footage from that era. The way he and his brother are dressed, they both have sunglasses and their hair is like done up. Like it's supposed to be like hyper real. Like this is an imagined course of events. And they roll up on the dock workers. They kill them, like flawless victory. And the whole thing has, I think, like wah-wah guitar playing over it and stuff. It's supposed to be cute, but it comes across as kind of tedious and I think, as you had mentioned, a little overlong as well. And then, just like we did in the previous film, we cut to black before they actually go out to do what it is they're going to do. And this is where Greenlee listens to his motorin'.
Yeah.
And I guess it's to get him in the zone or whatever.
Yeah. That's going to fucking help.
But then Julie Benz is also there, and she's like, let me do it. So she conducts her investigation. And we had a decent callback that I think our audio cut out, so it may not be in the recording we did for the first Boondock Saints. Mm-hmm. But there's a nice callback to the first movie here where the Greek detective asks Julie Benz, what does it symbolize?
Yeah.
And it needs to be noted that Willem Dafoe had this big long exchange with this fella in the previous film about the use of language, and what you mean is symbolism.
Symbolism.
Yeah. But it is ultimately like kind of a fruitless callback because her explanation actually doesn't answer his question at all. But then we see what actually happened. Do you want to give us a little bit insight into how the shootout went down?
Yeah, they Clifton Collins says he has his forklift license, so he convinces them to get into a box, and they're gonna basically sneak in and Trojan horse it, I suppose, is the best way to describe it. They fuck that up. They fall out of the box. Or Clifton Collins Jr. like wrecks the forklift, and then they jump up and they shoot these guys. Basically, that are there's the numbers just aren't adding up here. There's cocaine. There's one guy on a forklift doing the transporting the cocaine. These guys are very well lit in a warehouse messing with the cocaine. There's like 5 dudes. He shoots all of them. And they get the booty, they get the loot, and the forklift driver's talking to Clifton Collins Jr. I had to legit laugh at this point. He's just like, "Why did you knock me out? You could have just taken the keys and stuff." And he's like, "I could have just left." And Sean Patrick Flannery just like gets fed up with him talking. He's like, "Fucking leave!" Like he just screams at him. I thought
it was a funny little exchange, and we have a little bit. It reminded me a bit of Men in Black, where Clifton Collins Jr. asked for a gun.
Yeah,
it reminded me of Tremors and Men in Black, because in Tremors, if you'll remember, Melvin wanted a gun, and they gave him an unloaded one because he's a stupid teenager.
Yeah.
And then, of course, in Men in Black, they give him the noisy cricket or whatever.
Well, on the boat, like, "Can I get a gun?" They're like, "No." Okay, he's like, "I have to have a gun if we're gonna go do this." They give him a small gun, and
they call it a pussy gun.
It's stupid.
It's very stupid. But basically what happened is he clocked this guy in the head. He like pistol whipped him with it, and he blames the gun for being too small, and that's why it only hurt him instead of knocked him out. And he said, "Oh, you could have just pointed it at me and told me to scram."
Yeah. Dialogue is terrible. We get some Blade-esque techno.
Just like the first movie. A lot of techno when we're shooting people. Really obnoxious use of slow-mo. Actually, every instance of violence in this movie had me just cocking my eyebrow and going, "This is 2009?"
Yeah.
No, this is horribly dated. Like the energy and the complete lack of choreography in these supposed action scenes is maddening. I mean, I've gone on record many times saying I watch a lot of direct-to-video crap that had a lot more effort put into it than this. Because really, the way this shit is shot is just shots of them shooting and then reaction shots. So it's action-reaction.
But all the movies that you watch that are really bad, it's the choreographers that are doing the movies, or it's only the choreography they care about. So
that is true. So there is an expectation that it's like, if we're going to make a shitty movie for no money, we're going to at least have fun doing it.
Yeah.
But this is just sad, because really, Troy Duffy and Tarantino, quite obviously, both watched some John Woo movies. Troy Duffy seems to have really, really, really latched onto it for sure. But yeah, like every instance of violence is just kind of people walk into a room, usually with a gun in each hand. They shoot a bunch, and then we see a bunch of people fall down. Like there's no energy, there's no tension. It's just flat and boring. And even the violence isn't good. Like the squibs are minuscule. Like if you're gonna just have people get shot and fall down, you gotta have it like RoboCop squibs or something. Juicy squibs.
They do the stupid shit where they put the pennies on their eyes, you know the deal.
Yeah. And they make sure to have those scenes in black and white with choir playing over it, so it feels like it means something.
I'm gonna speed us up here because we are over an hour in, and we are
nowhere.
We are nowhere near close to halfway through this movie.
Okay, before we leave this scene, though, I do want to say that Julie Benz says she refers to the Saints as one of the 3 most lethal individuals on the planet.
Oh my god!
Are you fucking kidding me?
3
No.
of the drunkest people on the planet.
No, nowhere near. I'm sorry.
No.
They have killed some people. That's about it.
Some people.
They killed some people.
The Italian mafia have killed more people that day than they have accumulated in their career as vigilantes.
In every instance, they're getting by the skin of their teeth. It's not they're not fucking Jaws. They're not killing machines. Anyway, where you want to leave us?
I was going to say,
want to take us to?
Julie Benz, I guess, goes through the crime scene and says that they're trying to convince Julie Benz that it's not them, and she's like, "Nope, it's them." And they're like, "Fuck, she's gonna figure it out." I want to get over to Doc. I want to get to the bar.
Oh yeah, this is one of the first things you told me about this movie, actually.
Yeah, because I actually heard it from another podcast pointed this out. But they go back to that bartender who has Tourette's. I'm surprised he's still alive for this movie. 'Cause he's pretty old in that first one. They go back to his bar, and he's like, "Yeah, you boys you can crash here. It's no problem." Like, "How'd you know we were coming?" He goes, "Oh, the Lord told me." So apparently, like, their Alfred or their Zordon is the Lord, our Lord and Savior Jesus. He's the one communicating with everybody.
Put a pin in that, because by the time we get to the end of this, I don't think you're wrong.
So yeah, the bartender's like, "Yeah, you boys can shack up here. I've got this hidden room in the back." I'm like, "Dude, why would you?" He's like, "I just use it for storage." I'm like, "You have a bar in a metropolitan area, and you have available space to put people in? That's money, son. Like, that's more booze you can sell." He says that the room was used as a speakeasy in the 1940s. A speakeasy in the 1940s.
You might want to double check your dates there, Doc.
Don't think that we were not allowed to drink alcohol in the 40s.
Yeah, I'm
Quite
pretty
the opposite,
sure.
Actually.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we were indulging in the 1940s. By the way, they introduced Clifton Collins to him as, "This is our Mexican."
Yeah. Oh, it's bad.
Yeah.
The racist. I think this movie is the most, out of all the tallies, it's racist before anything else. That's the one that wins. Yeah, so they're doing some drinking back there. He's got Bushmills. By the way, Trevor, I know you don't drink, but I'm gonna let you know Bushmills is not a good whiskey. There are good Irish whiskeys. Redbreast 12 specifically is a really good Irish whiskey. Bushmills is not very good. Jameson's better, but he's got Bushmills, and they're eating lobster.
Maybe. I don't know what they're doing with lobster, but they get drunk. They get so drunk, in fact, that we actually fade out from this scene of them getting drunk and then fade back to it.
Yeah.
So they black out and continue to get drunk, and then there's a shot in here of Sean Patrick Flannery running around holding a lobster over his crotch, yelling "lobster dick."
It's pretty stupid.
I don't know the context or what that was supposed to mean, but sure, lobster dick.
Whatever. Yeah, pretty stupid. They're drinking on the pool table, which is a dick move.
Don't do that. People use that, man.
So yeah, where do we cut? I have
we cut to Da.
To Da. I was gonna say I see a flashback and a scream.
Yeah, we cut to Da, and I didn't catch the year. Shows how much I was paying attention, but it's New York, sometime in the past. And this is where we start getting our Godfather 2 reference going, long Godfather 2 reference.
And that's one of the reasons I don't really like The Godfather 2. It's kind of a boring movie, and I could give a shit less about the early Don Corleone. I'm sure the book might be more interesting, but I don't really like that second Godfather movie because it's just I don't care.
I enjoyed it, but I do see where you're coming from, though. It does come across as a bit disjointed at times. That party scene in the opening, logistically, is very impressive from a directing standpoint. Mm-hmm. But holy shit, it is 45 minutes long or some shit. It's it feels like you're at a wedding or something. It's or I could go to a wedding.
It's as long as Das Boot, I'm pretty sure.
It's just the wedding. But yeah, Da, back in the day, apparently worked at a leather shop of some sort with his Da in New York. And then some Italian mobsters come in. I guess they're shaking his dad down for money or something. And they beat him to death with a hammer in his own place of work. Which obviously upsets Billy Connolly, young Billy Connolly. I don't know this actor's name.
Nobody does.
And the main thing you need to take away from the scene is that his dad was killed by Italian mobsters in front of him. He has an emotional reaction to it. And by the way, he has an Italian buddy with a crippled leg who was in the room and was trying to console him. Put a pin in that.
Yeah.
And I think this is when we entered George and his fucking hair. We cut back to a high rise, and Yakovetta's guys are all like gathered around a buffet table, basically.
Did you see the food on this table?
I didn't pay that much attention to it. What's on there?
You got to go back and just see it. If you still have it rented, go back and look at the table. I swear to God, there are 3 loaves of Subway sandwich bread.
It looked sad. Like, it didn't look delicious or anything.
They have Safeway shrimp cocktail. Like, it looks like the plastic shrimp cocktail you can just get ready to eat. Yeah.
I saw the shrimp. Yeah.
I swear to God, it's Subway bread.
Well, maybe it's a budgetary thing where it's like, okay, so let's move the craft services table onto the set.
I think it is. And they spread it out even more, so it doesn't even look like it's that much. It's literally the craft services table. Yeah.
And they're just like, what the fuck, man? That's for like the crew also. It's like, no. We you can't eat too much of it because it needs to be here until we finish filming the scene.
So we meet. Is this where we meet Gorgeous George?
Headgear's also here, by the way.
Yeah.
The fella that got the salami to the face has headgear, and now he has a funny lisp. Haha.
Yeah, and we're laughing at him because of it. Fuck
yeah,
you.
I know. Dude, he just got his face smashed in. Don't laugh at him.
I want to give Troy the benefit of the doubt and say that he's referencing the actual mobster, Gorgeous George, but something tells me he's referencing Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. Snatch, Gorgeous George.
That sounds about right. Although, to be fair, Gorgeous George is a very common nickname. I mean, there was a wrestler by that name as well.
Yeah, it's really... you can just throw a dart and it's one of those 3, probably.
Yeah, but Snatch does sound about right. Like, that sounds like another movie he'd like.
He doesn't even know Gorgeous George is a mobster. He doesn't
What?
That's my old...
Put it this way. Troy Duffy through the 2000s, I'm sure, was watching a lot of Spike. And I'm pretty sure Snatch and The Ultimate Fighter were on a loop.
Dude, that's all he could afford. He just had one HBO station, one HBO channel, and Spike TV, and that's all he was watching.
He didn't have HBO. He was watching Stars.
I'm talking
Encore.
cable. I'm talking like one cable channel HBO.
My vote is for Stars or Encore. Maybe Showtime.
Nah.
Cinemax.
Yeah, I could see him having Cinemax. That makes sense.
Yeah, I could see him having Cinemax.
It's a 2 and 1. You get movies and softcore porn. I get it.
It's perfect combination.
And we get Basic Instinct, which is just a mix of the 2.
Or maybe you'll get Basic Instinct 2, which I always forget that exists.
I've never watched it. I don't know.
I haven't either, but it always blows my mind that's a thing. I mean, American Psycho 2. That also blows my mind, but Basic Instinct 2.
There's an American Psycho 2?
Yeah, I think it stars Mila Kunis.
Oh my goodness!
It was like direct to DVD.
Yeah, I can believe that.
Yeah, but Basic Instinct, I think they actually got Sharon Stone.
Jesus. Yeah.
But yeah, Gorgeous George shows up, and he has got a fucking hairdo, man.
Yeah, he does.
It did make me laugh just when he came in the room. Because I was like, whoa, he's a human troll doll.
He's the one that completely changed... Yeah, he is a human troll doll. He's the one that completely changes the tone of the movie. Like, it was already kind of a funny movie, and we hadn't quite gotten serious yet. He completely takes it to being comical. Gorgeous George.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So he shows up, and he's looking at the spread, and I didn't catch all the details here, but basically he he's wanting protection because Yakavetta has basically told all of his guys to lay low, and they're using this high-rise apartment, I guess, or office space or whatever the fuck it is, as like a refuge. Mm-hmm. And in fact, Yakavetta, Judd Nelson, has like a panic room, and so he's actually viewing everybody else via like a video feed.
Yeah.
And so he's basically just a head. He's a head on a monitor that's surveying the room. And George tries to talk to him and is asking for protection, and Yakavetta basically says, "Nah, fuck off, George. Like, all these guys are under my care, but for some reason I don't like you. Get out of here."
And yeah, then he goes to get a massage. Gorgeous George does, and there's something that happens in here. Julie Benz calls, or Greenlee calls Julie Benz. Julie Benz. He was supposed to be looking up something, and he tells her, and then she goes to where Gorgeous George is getting a massage.
Yeah, during one of their numerous conferences that the police have throughout this movie, she mentions that he's a good lead for locating Yakavetta.
Yeah.
So yeah, she goes to this massage parlor. She does the thing where she ushers the actual masseuse out of the room and then takes their place without the person, unbeknownst to the person receiving the massage.
Yeah.
And then she starts roughing him up, and I want to say we get a little bit of male nudity here. It looked like some shaft or something.
We almost get some penis, but we definitely get some man ass. More man cheeks.
Yeah, there's some more man ass in here. And he's got like bad instant-tan, and of course that hairdo. No, go ahead.
She's saying some stuff. She's like, Yakovetta's doing this and Yakovetta's doing that. I'm like, how the fuck does she know any of this? Like, I have no idea where she's getting her information from.
I don't know, Kyle.
Maybe I don't know. It sounds like she's saying specific things. It's not just like Yakovetta's scared and he's hiding. She's like, that motherfucker is hiding someplace and he did this and that. And I'm like, and you're out here, like, yeah, maybe that's what it was. She's like, he doesn't want you in there. That's why you're out here on the streets looking for the Saints or whatever.
She's like planting a seed of doubt in him so that maybe he'll help her or the Saints in some fashion because he feels betrayed by his boss. But in between all this, we have an audience with Romeo's uncle at some sort of restaurant that his uncle runs. The Saints are with him, and somehow his uncle knows everything about the criminal underworld.
Everything. He's C-3PO of the criminal underworld. Like, he's very
so I didn't bother to look this fella up, but just from the sound of his voice and the fact that I noted he has a hairpiece, I think he's the bully from The Incredible Hulk, the Brazilian bully. In the the early scenes of that Ed Norton movie, there's some like Brazilians that are kind of bullying him, and then he hulks out and he kills them. I want to say he was like the lead bully. It's just this tiny little Hispanic man, and he was bald in that one, but I noticed he had a hairpiece in this. And I want to say The Incredible Hulk may have been
that's him.
I think it was a Lionsgate production as well. So
it is
that's
him.
Damn,
I'm
good.
leader, and then he's Uncle Caesar. Man, good job.
I just know his voice. It just stood out to me, and I was like, why does he have a hairpiece? It's never explained.
Pedro Salvin.
Sure. His voice is weird. Put it that way. He sounds like a little goblin man. And then the Saints tease Romeo on the drive back home because he starts crying, and we get this shot.
I don't know why.
It's very poorly presented to us. It was the only reason I bring it up is because I had difficulty interpreting it.
I don't know.
He's driving and he's looking out the window and he starts tearing up, and then we cut to a shot from his perspective of his uncle touching him on the hand. I think it's just like acknowledgement or something. Like he felt touched, maybe.
I think maybe his uncle said something to him, like he was really, really proud of him, or he's like, now that, because I mean, Mexican culture, I believe Catholicism is very big, and maybe it was something along those lines, like now you're walking the path with God, and he was like, maybe he got that approval from his uncle or something.
He asked the Saints, like, is my nephew like pulling his weight? And they say, yeah, he's a stand-up guy. He's like all heart, I think is what they say to him in Spanish. And then he like touches him on top of the hand and like says like good. And I guess that's enough to prompt a deep emotional reaction from him. It's so bizarre because there's not really a callback to it, and they tease him for it relentlessly. Yeah. Like, they're awful to him.
Well, they're dicks. They're absolute dicks.
Yeah. It's weird. Like, again, they're like 5-year-olds. They're children. But George, after being roughed up by Julie Benz, he goes to his friend in some, looks like a junkyard or something.
Yeah. Bill Paxton somewhere licking boobs.
Call back to The Dark Backward. Check it out if you haven't listened to it.
This guy trying to describe Panic Room to him is fucking hilarious.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. So yeah, we get a reference to another movie, this time being Panic Room. He's like, oh yeah, like I think they made mention of that in that one movie. He's like, you mean Panic Room?
The two guys in the room with the girl and the mom. I want to hear not Jerry Stiller, but George Costanza's father do movie reviews. Yeah.
To this day, one of my favorite lines of his is referencing The Net.
Yeah.
It's when he wants to get into computer sales. He's like, so I was watching this movie with that woman from the bus.
The woman from the bus.
As in Speed. But that woman from the bus.
From the bus.
It's a very timely reference. He had to have been there.
It would just scramble his brain if he tried to explain, like, Smoking Aces or something. The guy, he's on the spaceship, and it was an older movie, now it's new. He's trying to describe Chris
Imagine,
Pine.
like, Inception or something. It's like, so these guys are dreaming, but they're inside a dream, and they're going off a bridge in a van, but time is different when you're in the dream world. And when you're in a dream within a dream, it gets really complicated, and things go really slow, and there's a Japanese man that they need to come up with an idea. It's called Dreams and Coming Up with Stuff.
Movie with the lizard and the guy from the Breaking Bad.
The guy from the Breaking Bad. The guy from the AMC.
We just have him with a commentary over, like, new movies and stuff like that. That'd be fun.
Oh, that would be amazing. Just like summarizing complicated films.
Yeah. I think it can happen.
Yeah. While we still have Jerry Stiller, we need him to do that.
Don't we go over to Rocco's mugshot? His grave?
We do, but before we get there, we gotta quote back to Da.
Oh, the fucking vest. He's making that.
Quote back to Da, and I thought they were teasing something like he was sick. No, not really. He's cooking back home in Ireland, and he starts coughing, and it's like, I was like, oh, does he have like tuberculosis, or is he dying or something?
Yeah.
No, he just coughs for some reason. Then he's looking at a butterfly tattoo, which holds no significance as far as I know, but it's what we use to cut from the present to the past. And we see him and his crippled Italian friend take revenge on the fella that killed his dad with the hammer. You can assume that they gained entry to the mob's ranks by like buddying up to them in some fashion, because the way we're introduced to the scene is like the head mobster is like watching them hold someone up at gunpoint in a kitchen. It's like a weird Mexican standoff situation, and then they turn the guns on the head mobster. I don't know what the fuck happened here.
I stopped watching. I don't watch these stupid flashbacks. I'm not watching it. Like, I know what you're trying to do, and it was already unimpressive the first time someone tried to do it to me. I don't want to watch these flashbacks. So you tell me.
Long story short, they shoot Billy Connolly, Billy Connolly shoots an Italian guy.
He gets a taste for killing people because he's a sociopath. Yeah.
Yeah, no joke. And then we go to like a mausoleum where Rocco his ashes are being stored, and there is kind of a funny beat here with the photograph. Like, I did actually kind of snicker at that, because basically the photo they have up beside his urn or whatever is him, and it's very clearly like a mugshot, and his hair is bundled up above his head, and there's just like this weird smudge off to the side, and it's very clearly an arm like holding his hair above his head. And they note that's like, holy shit, like they used his mugshot and they photoshopped the arm out badly.
I had a legit laugh at that. That was pretty funny.
No, I laughed at. I didn't laugh at the nerd showing up and like fanboying out about them. That was just awkward and stupid.
I have my next note is no accent on Reedus. He barely talks in this movie. Neither one of them hardly talk. And
Sean Patrick Flannery only yells.
Yeah,
he only yells.
Reedus has like no accent whatsoever. Like he just completely gave up on it.
Completely.
Not that he had much of one in the first movie. Sean Patrick Flannery did, and I remember him speaking more. But in this movie, Reedus does not.
But yeah, some glassed individual runs up and is like, "Oh, I'm a huge fan of yours. I'm a stereotypical nerd."
Yeah.
And if this had been made like 3 years later, he'd be asking for a selfie or something.
Pretty much. Yeah.
But this was 2009, probably shot in 2008. And then the black cat comes back again, just shows up. It gives them pause. Nothing comes of it. And this carries on through the rest of the film. So this, I think this takes us to another salon, like a tanning bed this time.
Yeah.
And Gorgeous George is in his European cut Speedo. Very ill-fitting, by the way. It's pink. He's in a tanning bed, and now the Saints are harassing him. This poor guy can't catch a break.
He can't.
I kind of like George too. Like,
yeah, he's fun. Like, I think we can just call this movie a comedy. I'm just gonna call it a comedy because he is pretty funny too. Greenlee actually had a funny bit right before this where he was talking. Like Julie Benz is leaving the room and he says something kind of like to the other guys. It's supposed to be kind of inconsiderate and sexual towards her, and she comes in. And he thinks that she's, she heard him, and I didn't say nothing. Like he moves his head like he's about to get hit. But yeah, the boys are like, you're gonna take us to where we're gonna kill people next. You're gonna tell us everything. He shits his pants, which is disgusting. And the boys go to this bar, this Mexican bar that's down by the docks in Boston. Okay.
Those exist?
Yeah, it's not. I'm sorry, it's not even a Mexican bar. It's like a Mexican bar and grill down by the docks. And
Sure.
this is the Departed hangout. Did you see The Departed? Because they're hanging out in a bar. And there's basically a shootout here, and Gorgeous George strapped to that little cart. It's fucking hilarious.
I don't think he was supposed to fall
He
off.
wasn't supposed to.
I don't think he was supposed to fall off.
Clifton Collins Jr. cracked me up at this part. This is where they he actually has a regular gun now. I think he has just like a regular 9mm or something, and he shoots these guys and he goes "Viva la Mexico!" and he hits that ha ha. He hits that really loud laugh that you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I had to pause it for a sec because I was having a pretty good laugh at it. He does it really well.
Yeah, he says, "Que viva Mexico, bitches." Not exactly clever, but the delivery was...
The delivery was...
Yeah, the delivery makes it, but yeah, the words themselves are kind of like, ooh. Yeah, this was very strange, because basically the premise here is they use George to call a wise guy meeting at this bar.
Yeah.
So they're waiting for it to fill up, for everybody who is invited to show up. And in the meantime, Clifton Collins Jr. is acting as the bartender, and they're being casually racist to him, and he's not taking kindly to it. In the meantime, the short left-handed hitman is in the parking lot, and he has a phone conversation with a mystery man. He was invited to show up at this gathering, but he opts to stay in the parking lot because he figures it's a setup of some sort. But yeah, the Saints and Clifton Collins Jr., they just kind of, they come through the cupboards of behind the bar or something?
Sure.
They use some sort of trapdoor to get the drop on the wise guys, and they shoot 7 guys, and behind them, the reason why I was laughing is that Gorgeous George is strapped to like a serving tray of some sort, and when everybody's falling down, all these stunt actors are getting shot with squibs and stuff. Somebody bumps him, and the cart falls over with him strapped to it.
Yeah,
and it looks like it was probably very painful. But the awkwardness of the editing in this was just bizarre, because we get the same shot of them getting killed twice. We see it in like at normal speed, and then like a couple seconds later, it just plays back again in slow motion.
Yeah.
And I don't really know why. But after all the people are dead, they don't untie George. Actually, he's standing up with the cart still strapped to him, and he basically pleads for his life. They do the gag with him, where they pretend they're going to kill him, but they don't. Seems to be like a bonding ritual of theirs or something. And they let him go with the expectation that like he'll hold fast to his word and reform as a person. And then the hitman shows up and starts just shooting at him. And consequently, though, like Julie Benz shows up also, and she shoots him, and he leaves. She's like, "What the fuck is happening?"
Yeah, she shows up.
Things are happening.
She shows up out of nowhere, and then she explains to them like, "Hey, I'm Agent Smecker's replacement," and he was. Well, apparently Smecker was the one that got them out of the country, and it almost felt like they were doing more with Smecker, like they were doing more stuff, but that's not. I don't think that's what happened.
No, they do explicitly state that. I think the last thing they did was the courtroom scene, so it's not like they carried on with doing that.
Well, I mean, which would make more sense if they were like doing this for years. After that, he was hiding them and keeping them out of trouble, and then finally they had to just go over to Ireland to, get away from the heat for a while. But no, they did two little things with Smecker, and then that's it. And now he's already trained a protege to take over for him. So she hasn't told the other cops that she's there to help all of them. And like, oh, girls got to have some fun. Now they get to... Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, she does mention that Smecker is dead.
Yeah.
And that's why she's replaced him. And she also alludes, very vaguely, to some sort of organization or conspiracy. I think she actually uses the word conspiracy to keep the Saints out of prison.
Yeah.
Sure. Whatever.
Okay.
But yeah, she helps them doctor this crime scene.
Is it just a bunch of xenophobic priests that are keeping them out of prison? I feel like that's what it is.
I think it's the Catholic Church. We'll get to it, but she helps them doctor the crime scene, and we get kind of a cute reenactment scene where I think the cops are there now, and she's explaining to them what happened.
Yeah.
So the Saints are gone. They're clear of the scene, but this is like she called in the cavalry, and we get a similar reenactment to like the last one in the first film, where she's present and she's telling us the story of what happened. So she's like a ghost in the room, and the way she spins it is that the mobsters killed each other after a disagreement.
Yep.
And the choreography here, like in my notes, I said choreography is cute. Like a Whitesnake music video.
Yeah, more or less.
Because like her moves and stuff made me think of like a hair metal band or something.
Is this where she's wearing a cowboy hat?
Not yet. But
Okay,
this is where she's looking directly into the camera and like gesturing cutely, like pointing when people are getting shot and stuff. It's cute. I don't know if it's good, but it's cute. And I think this is where we get a reference to 9/11. Our first reference to 9/11, where she, I guess, had the detectives do some digging, and they pull the hitman's file, and it's understood that because of the time frame in which he got into the country, he slipped through the cracks post 9/11.
No, I think that we were so hardcore locked down around 9/11, like afterwards, nobody could sneak into the country. We were on high alert.
I guess the idea here is that somebody with a lot of power, must have pulled some strings or something.
Was it POTUS? Because POTUS is the only one that could have done it.
No, it
George
was
W.
Peter
Bush.
Fonda.
Yeah,
It was
Peter Fonda.
It was the Easy Rider himself.
Jesus. This is where she meets them back at the bar, isn't it?
Yeah, the way I prefaced this in my notes was, the fuck?
I called it Sleepers Get Together. Remember that scene in Sleepers at the end where they all get out?
Very
They're
much
all
so.
Singing and yeah.
By the way, everyone in this room has a horrible end to their life.
I mean, it's a good movie. I love Kevin Bacon's death in that movie, but when the main guy explains the situation to Robert De Niro, like what's happening, he's like, listen, we were raped when we were in boys' school, and these two didn't take it very well, and they killed Kevin Bacon. Robert De Niro listens to his story. He's like, I told Father Bobby up my whole story, and De Niro does not move. He just sits there, doesn't shake his head. He doesn't blink. It almost looks like a still frame, like a freeze frame. No. But he just doesn't move. But anyway,
no, it's just a long pause. I'm sorry, what? I wasn't listening. What?
Sorry to lose track there, but yeah, we get to the bar, and the three detectives are in there, and they're for sure they're fucked. Like, I think they're at high panic at this point, and she comes in and is like, something in southern accent, and then the McManus brothers jump from behind the bar and spray him with water. And,
they're fucking children. Like, yeah. God damn it. Who does that?
Why is this bar closed? Why is it open? Whose bar is this? And why are they there?
And why is it lit like the set of Friends?
The last thing you want to do if you are an FBI agent and 3 Boston detectives be seen harboring fugitives who are vigilantes in a public place with cameras in it.
It's a little awkward, and the way she just nonchalantly brings them over, it's a little strange.
And they all like high-fiving and like,
yeah,
dude. They don't know each other.
They don't know each other.
They met one time in that movie.
I don't even think they did.
They didn't even meet. You're absolutely right.
I don't think they did.
Well, I mean, in fairness, they do like high-five and shit, and they start drinking, but we cut to them at different ends of the bar. Like, Julie Benz is just talking to the brothers, and then the 3 detectives are just by themselves. I'm like, yeah, that makes more sense. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, they're way too happy to see each other.
Yeah.
And they're way too comfortable with the idea of them killing dozens of people in their town.
I had friends from high school that I was tight with. If I saw them now, I wouldn't even be that excited to see them, and I knew them.
Yeah, again, this feels like Troy Duffy shit, where it's like, I could see that being like part of his self-perception, where it's like, yeah, I want to be that guy that like people show up and they all want to hug and they're all excited to see.
Dude, Troy, if you're listening, I know you probably are, because one of your movies popped up on something.
Google alert.
Whenever you walk into a room, you are not that person. You are that, oh my God, he's fucking here. Jesus.
Oh my God.
Oh, no. We have to go. Like, I cannot handle him. I cannot listen to him. This is ridiculous.
It's like, just make an excuse. Just the kid got diarrhea or something.
Yeah,
or the dog's sick. The dog's sick. Diarrhea. Chocolate. Someone left some chocolate out, and we're worried about the dog. Dog's not sick though. That's yeah.
Slit your wrist, and I'll take you to the hospital and say you're going through something.
Just drop your wine glass or something. Step on it.
Yeah. So, not much else happens at the bar except I think she has the boy. Why don't you boys walk me out? And this is where you said she has this thing about having people escort her.
Yeah, it's a nothing little scene, but it's basically her excusing herself, probably to go to the set of Rambo or something.
Yeah,
I think I'm going to leave the movie for about 20 minutes now. Enjoy. Cut to Mystery Man, who we already outed as Peter Fonda. It's not too hard to put together. Pulling a bullet from the short hitman that I guess Julie Benz put in him, and their dialogue is subtitled because it's in Italian, but it's at this point that it's understood that whatever this conspiracy is, these people who killed the priest to get the Saints, on their trail. They're after Da. They're after Il
Yeah.
Duce, not the brothers. By the way, this is around the time when I realized that wasn't Troy Duffy. That was Ricky from Trailer Park Boys.
They're very similar looking.
They both have that kind of like meek like. Troy Duffy has weird eyes where he almost looks like a child at times, where he's definitely a man, but like I don't know, just sometimes looks out of it in just the right way, probably because he's drunk. And then we get an arming up montage, much like we did earlier in the film. I think it's at the same guy's bunker.
Oh yeah. Okay, so they decided to make this Irish gun salesman Irish this movie and gave him an accent. If it's the same actor, I'm not sure. He did not. He sounded like, who's that dude from A Walk to Remember? Shane? Is it Shane West? Is that his name? He looks and
I
sounds.
don't
It was
Is
A
that
Walk
that
to
Mandy
Remember.
Moore movie?
Yeah, the one where she has cancer. Spoiler alert. He's also in League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. He plays Tom Sawyer, I think. He had like 5 minutes in the late 90s, early 2000s. But he looks and sounds like him. But in this movie, he's Irish. So I want to get to my biggest problem with this movie, Trevor.
Okay.
The
Let's hear it.
Mexican flag guns. So for some reason, this guy, who is an Irish gun dealer, has these gold-plated Mexican flag gun. Like the handle, the actual handle is a Mexican flag.
Yeah, it's
And
red, green, and white.
red, green, and
Like
white.
paint.
And then, so I want to explain something to you, Trevor. The Mexican flag is red, green, and white, and it has the national coat of arms on it. It's
in the center.
You and I both know what it looks like. Yeah. Can you tell me what the Irish flag looks like, Trevor?
Yeah, it's
I'll
orange,
stop you
white,
right
and
there.
green.
It's orange, white, and green. That's exactly what it is. Not that dissimilar from the Mexican flag. The only thing that's really different is it's a little lighter shade, which is orange of that color. And then there's a coat of arms. Yet these are the gayest guns they've ever seen. They're like, that's so stupid. I'm like, guys, it's a sneeze away from an Irish flag. It's right there. But that's really stupid. That drove me fucking nuts rewatching this. I'm like, seriously? Grow up. Like, that's the stupidest thing.
It gave me pause because of how childish it was. Because to set the stage for this, basically, we're arming up. By the way, there are like far better, more efficient weapons all over the place that they could very easily take. Plenty of assault rifles and submachine guns and things of that nature. No, we're going to take these two long barrel Desert Eagles.
Yeah.
These two gigantic 50 caliber Israeli handguns.
That'll snap their wrists.
Yeah, no joke, man. Carpal tunnel for everyone.
I have them like, how big are these guns? Because they are two-handing these guns, just one in each hand, and it's not even moving. It's not even like giving some kickback.
I think they may have done some shenanigans with the weapons. Maybe they used like airsoft guns for some of the shots, because I noticed there's an execution scene later in the movie where there's zero recoil and even the muzzle flash is not apparent. So I think maybe they like post-processed that where they didn't even actually discharge the weapon on the set. Probably because it's being held to the back of someone's head, which is not safe even without a projectile.
Yeah.
But yeah, they get these Desert Eagles, and Clifton Collins Jr. takes these two silenced Colt 45s with the Mexican flag printed on them, and they just glance over his way. And oh, by the way, there's a Charlie and the Chocolate Factory reference here.
Oh yeah.
And they just glance over his way and they say, "Those are queer."
Yeah.
And then he goes off. Like, he goes off on a tangent saying, like, "Are you saying that I look gay? Do these make me look gay?" So Clifton Collins Jr. has a serious case of the not gays.
Well, he can't be himself around these two guys.
Well, yeah, because
really
he can't cry without them calling attention to it and making him feel like a heel. He can't proudly carry weapons bearing the flag of his people without them saying it makes him look gay.
It might just be Sean Patrick Flannery's character, because as you mentioned before, he's the one making fun of Norman Reedus, and Norman Reedus is like, I was thinking about, he knew what his brother was going to say. He's like, I was thinking of going like platinum blonde, and immediately...
Gay.
And Reedus is kind of like just the bully sidekick, like he's the beta to Sean Patrick.
So are you saying Sean Patrick Flannery is the proxy for Troy Duffy?
He's the homophobic alpha. Yeah, he's the homophobic alpha.
Yeah, he's Troy Duffy in this movie, and Norman Reedus is the actor who negotiated his contract a little more wisely and said, I don't think I want to say all that stuff because I intend to have a career after this.
Who's the handsome one? Who has the better part of the Jesus tattoo?
Yeah.
I'm saying.
Just saying.
Who was working at an Irish bar in West Hollywood? I mean, just saying. Troy. Just saying.
So, following the arming up montage,
Wait, Troy, do you see yourself as a 1998 Sean Patrick Flannery? Is that how you see yourself?
I would not 1998 Sean Patrick Flannery.
Oh, he was handsome as hell.
He was, but like I think he was a few years removed from young Indiana Jones by then.
Oh yeah.
So
I didn't even think about that.
I think he had already crested by then a little bit.
Yeah, you might.
So yeah.
He was over the hill.
Yeah. Well, I mean, after like 20 episodes of Young Indiana Jones, I mean, what else you got left in you?
Oof.
I'll watch some of that.
I'm trying
Have
to
you
see
seen that, by the way?
What?
Young Indiana Jones?
No, I remember you mentioning it. I'm like, I completely forgot about that.
It exists.
I know. I remember hearing about it. I just never watched it.
The only reason I really knew about it was one of my favorite gifts I received in my youth was an Indiana Jones box set on VHS. I had bootlegs of the movies before that, but my grandma came to town and she bought me that, and it also included one tape of one episode of that series. That short-lived. It was like the equivalent of like a mini series, but like I don't know, 10 episodes long or something. Anyway, it's basically Indiana Jones if he was Forrest Gump.
Gotcha.
So like every major event from like the 1910s to the 1940s he was involved in. Did you know Indiana Jones founded jazz?
I was not aware of that.
Of course you weren't. Cut to the high rise. We're back at the Yakavetta headquarters. Julie Benz is investigating a crime scene because it's the Boondock Saints. We can never do a action scene straight. We got to come back to it.
Yeah.
Choir music's playing. And then another FBI agent who has been alluded to earlier in the film shows up, and apparently he's taking over. His name is Agent Kunstler. And he and Agent Bloom have an exchange. He calls her Bloomy, Agent Bloomy, and she calls him Agent Cunty.
It feels a lot like Ray Liotta and Julianne Moore in Hannibal. Like
very much so, actually.
They have that kind of dynamic. Yeah, basically, I think he's on. Like he seems to be onto it. Like, yeah, Julie Benz is up to some shit, or she's not doing these crime scenes well enough, and he's wanting to shut her down.
Yeah,
get her off the case.
He's the man. Like
Yeah.
he shows up and he's swinging dick. And really funny, actually. Rob Wells' face is on the monitor that Yakovetto's was on earlier.
That's what
and
I
he's
realized
just kind of like
here.
nodding in acknowledgement, and, like furrowing his brow, because he's hearing everything that's being said. So there's just this big floating head in the background of half of these shots, and he does have a funny face. And then we get a cute little character moment here where Agent Kunstler is going over the crime scene and positing on what happened, and Agent Bloom asks the three detectives who up until now have been kind of like stooges. She asks them to give their thoughts on what happened, and they very succinctly and accurately explain what happened. So it's like, oh my god, after all this time hanging out with these super competent FBI agents, they actually learned something.
Unless they figure out how to open doors. Like, they're learning how to open up doors. They managed to figure it out.
I'm picturing Greenlee like doing like a cat on a door handle, like just kind of batting at it until it opens.
Oh, jeez.
Just. And then
he's the raptor that they use for bait to kill Muldoon. He's not the clever girl.
Yeah, he's the alien at the beginning, Alien Resurrection, that they all kill to create a hole in the floor. It's like, well, you got to serve a purpose, buddy. We'll get out. You won't, but.
Oh no, they'll need one of us in the wreckage. I think this is where Greenlee.
We're going kind of nuts here.
Yeah, it's hard, dude. This movie is not good.
Took me to dark places.
Greenlee's about to die.
Greenlee is about to die.
Where are they? Are they in the bar? This is the Mexican. Which bar is this?
Well, long story short, I mean, we actually get the playback of the apartment shootout. It's a very long, very stupid scene.
Yeah, it's inconsequential.
Yeah,
dies. That's it. That's
yeah.
All it is.
Again, this is one of those scenes where I was like, again, this is 2009. There's interesting editing here, not good, interesting. Where Clifton Collins Jr. is dressed up as like a food delivery guy or something. He takes a janitor hostage, and he's interrogating him, like demanding that he give him a good like quote or tagline to say after the shooting's done.
Yeah.
And he's very insistent that this guy give him an answer, and the whole time he's waving a gun in his face. And before they break off, though, the McManuses tell him, just point your gay guns at them, and for Christ's sake, try to look cool or something. And as they're heading up in the elevator, Norman Reedus has the trailer line, I'm guessing, because I don't remember any promotion for this movie. Let's do some gratuitous violence.
Yeah.
Coming from the trench coat mafia, that's not a thing you want to hear.
No.
But yeah, interspersed between like the McManuses prepping to invade the room and Clifton Collins Jr. interrogating this janitor guy, we get Judd Nelson like rallying the troops, just kind of saying stuff
and things. Yeah,
it's just stuff and things. Clifton Collins Jr. references Jaws and Terminator. We're going to need a bigger boat, and I'll be back. And now the brothers are on some like scaffolding. Rapid fire movie references here. Reference to the Eiger Sanction, the Clint Eastwood film that my dad had me watch when I was a kid. I don't remember a fucking thing about it. They see the black cat again. And then we get a callback to a gag from the first film about Sean Patrick Flannery wanting a rope, seemingly without reason, but it comes into play here. And then we get the actual reenactment of the shootout, and this is where Julie Benz shows up in her cowgirl outfit.
Yeah.
They take some like artistic license here, where basically the brothers swing in on their ropes. They come in through the window with their 2 Desert Eagles apiece.
Yeah.
They like, what is it called, a power slide when you're in a rock concert and you slide on your knees?
Sure, I know what you mean, but we'll call it power slide.
Yeah, they power slide the entire length of this room, shooting the whole time. And Julie Benz is standing in the center of the room in a full-blown like yeehaw cowgirl outfit, like brandishing a couple of revolvers. She's like serving as the narrator for the scene, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, everybody dies. It's boring. And we get a really strange moment here that I don't understand the logic of it, where Clifton Collins Jr. like kicks open the door and he says, "Who ordered the whoop ass fajitas?" But then Julie Benz approaches him, and Julie Benz, who is not present, by the way, she's a specter, she's a ghost, she's an apparition. She tells him, "Oh, you kicked the door down, right? Maybe you should use that for your line." And we get a repeat of the scene, but he says a different line. He says, "Ding dong, motherfucker, ding dong." So the logic there, it's just like, what?
It doesn't make any sense. She's like reiterating the crime scene, and she wouldn't know what he said or did not say, or that he's even there. Actually, she just introduced a third person with the Boondock Saints. So, do they know it's 3 people at this point? If they didn't, they do now because she's saying there is.
Yeah. I mean, there's certainly 2 different kinds of weapons exchanged or fired, rather. I don't know.
Yeah.
Long story short, we cut back to the crime scene in the present. Rob Wells comes out of the panic room and just like casually snatches her, and he spills his guts to her and like tells her some stuff about the old man who is apparently the puppet master who was guiding everybody's hand along the way. And this is where we get the death of Greenlee, I think, at the bar.
Yeah, the guys are just sitting in the bar, and Greenlee just walks in and just says, bam! He just gets shot from the back, right through the heart. And a little Italian guy, who I think he looks like a soccer player. Like, every time I see him, I'm like, he's got a soccer player's haircut. I think it's what he is. He's not. I don't think he is. But who does he grab hostage at this point?
A person. I can't remember.
I don't remember. He grabs somebody hostage, but
it's Doc. It's Doc.
Doc. He grabs Doc hostage, which that's fine. I would have. Yeah, you can have him. But their dad just pops in, and out of nowhere, and this is a really weird emotional scene. They're like, "Oh, Dad, don't do it!" Blah, blah, blah. So he lets Doc go because El Duce pulls out 2 pistols from the 1930s. They break open like a cap gun. I know what kind of gun it is, but yeah, I don't even think these things are made anymore. They can't be.
I mean, these are British revolvers that were used like World War II and pre-World War II.
I think maybe cops in the 70s had these, and I think those are the last people to have this kind of gun. But he puts 1 bullet in each one and spins it, and the Italian guy apparently knows what this is. It is a Mexican Russian roulette off, I guess. I don't know what else to like a Mexican standoff, but with Russian roulette, where they both have a gun, and they have to hold the gun to the other person's head to pull the trigger.
Stupid is what it's called, Kyle.
Yeah, it's pretty stupid. I promise you that he was the most excited about this. He's like, I just got this fucking great idea.
I mentioned like when we first started recording that it feels like certain things are just here because there was enthusiasm to do them, not because it was relevant to anything. And this stinks of it, where it's just like, this is a cool thing that I want to put in something, even if it's not appropriate for that thing.
He's like, I can't rip off the Deer Hunter. How can I rip off the Deer Hunter without it being ripping off the Deer Hunter? Oh, I'll just do a different kind of Russian roulette.
Well, what's funny is all you'd have to do to win this outcome is just click, 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 done.
Yeah, who can?
But
click
no,
the quickest?
They do this thing where they're yelling at each other and they just pull the trigger occasionally. And yeah, the little Italian man, like he says like a mantra to himself, like "Make me famous."
Something like that. It's really
it's
stupid.
that Napoleon complex you referenced earlier. And Billy Connolly just keeps asking him, like, where is the old man? Where's the old man?
He's not going to give him up.
Yeah, and then he tells his boys, like, back the fuck off. They both have guns to the Italian guy, by the way.
No, yeah, you're going to die one way or another, so.
Yeah, but they don't shoot him. They just let Da do things his way. And yeah, long story short, Hitman's dead. He's got a bullet between the eyes. And I think this is where Rocco comes back.
Oh yes.
This is like maybe the most important scene in the movie. Not to the movie, just in terms of like
this is what we've been building to as far as the podcast, like as far as this episode
yeah,
goes, I think.
Yeah. There's a lot going on here, and it doesn't connect to anything. It's just a weird little tangent that I think
I figured out what the cat is. I think I figured out what the cat is doing. The cat is the familiar for Rocco's spirit, and Rocco has been trying to get in touch with the Saints. And his familiar is like, it's coming by, and they're like, well, that's weird. And then they see the cat again, like, that's really fucking weird. And that's why we have this scene where the cat runs across the bar when Rocco shows up. Like, I think that's what it was supposed to be. It's stupid, but I'm gonna suggest that.
Well, side note: every time I hear somebody say "it's stupid" in that tone, I think of Galaxy Quest.
I just rewatched it.
Sigourney Weaver has that line where she's talking about what it means to be the gal who just repeats everything that the computer says.
Yep. Yeah.
She's like, I have one job on this ship. It's stupid. But I'm going to do it.
That movie holds up hard.
I really enjoy that movie.
It's really
good. Yeah,
good.
for some reason, every time I hear that phrase, I think of her.
I almost cried. I almost cried watching it this last time. It's nuts.
It's a fun movie. I really enjoy it.
It's fantastic.
I mean, when I first saw it and enjoyed it, I had zero familiarity with Star Trek. Now that I know things about Star Trek, it's probably more fun.
We watched a lot of TNG with our grandpa. He tried to get us into Stargate. We weren't about that shit.
Yeah, no.
I've tried watching it. I'm like, I'll give it a try. Let's just see what happens. No. So yeah, Rocco shows up and they take a shot. The cat runs across the bar, and Rocco looks at after watching the cat walk back, he looks at the guys. Sean Patrick Flannery gives him a look. It's not even a look. He just kind of just tilts his head a little bit. It's not even like, oh, there's that fucking cat, or like, oh man, there's no emotion in it. It's really weird. But this is where he gives them a pep talk, which Troy is good at, quote unquote. He's good at speeches.
He's good at speeches. I talked about in the last episode where he doesn't write dialogue. He just writes speeches, and that's what this feels like.
Is he on Twitter now? Like, is he with us? Is he with the present day people in America?
I hope he is, because I'd be curious to know. I actually haven't checked, but yeah.
I feel like this next part, the best way to sum it up, we're gonna get into it, but
yeah,
toxic masculinity, is that what I could use to describe?
It's toxic masculinity married to men's right activism.
Oh my goodness, he'd be a Proud Boy. He'd 100%.
Yeah, no, he would pal around with the Proud Boys, and he would have a MAGA cap, like.
Oh, don't even get. Yeah. Yeah.
So, I actually think that you're right about the cat familiar thing. Like, okay. that makes enough sense that I follow. So good for you. The question though is why?
Honestly, I think this guy David Della Rocco is his best friend in real life.
I think so. Yeah.
I mean, he seems like an affable guy. I would love if I was in Boston or wherever he lives and I bumped into him at a bar. I would love to have a drink with him. I'm sure he's a lot of fun. But he killed him. He fucked up. He killed him in that first movie. And he's like, oh, I got to bring him back somehow. This serves nothing other than motivation.
Serves no purpose. And they don't need motivation at this point.
What, they just got the motivation. Somebody just held a gun to their dad's head. That would probably piss me off.
Yeah, and by the way, their dad's safe. He's fine.
He's fine. He's fine.
Yeah, everything's fine. Greenlee's dead, but he's fine.
Yeah, fuck him. But whatever El Duce says, hey, we got to kill this dude. And like, yeah, that's fine. That's enough motivation for us. That's all we needed the whole time. That's all we needed, Dad. Just tell us we need to kill somebody.
No, this 3-minute scene stands for it adds nothing. It just is. And I feel like, yes, David Della Rocco is probably Troy Duffy's good friend. I also suspect that this entire speech, which is not actually speech, there is a bit of a conversation going on here, maybe came as a result or was like transcribed from an actual conversation that they had while drunk.
No, stone cold sober drinking tea on Sunday afternoon. Fuck yeah, they were drunk the whole time.
But it feels like something like a rant.
It's a rant. It is a hardcore rant.
It is a rant in service to nothing. So we should get into the actual details of what's said here. I couldn't write it all down because it all came so fast.
I'm going to tell you my highlighted phrases, and you let me know yours. I have fuck therapy, paraphrase red meat is awesome, men don't cry, men punch people and we build stuff.
Yeah.
That's the gist.
That's the reference to 9/11. A second reference to 9/11.
That's the second reference.
They're standing among some skyscrapers and they make mention of like men build things until they break down and then we rebuild them. Twin Towers. Yeah, hard men doing hard shit. Real men hide their feelings.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
By the way, by the way, the McManus brothers both cry in this film, so good job following up on that.
Yeah.
But basically, it's just like a pro manliness speech.
Yeah.
It's problematic to say the least, especially today. Like back then, maybe not so much, but today it's like, ooh, this is just not good, not good for anyone.
Yeah, it's real stupid. They end up in a hockey rink and they're like just standing, jabbering at each other, hyping each other up for no fucking reason.
Yeah, during this whole tirade, the opening title music from the first film is playing, which again is a very good piece of music. I will give them that. But yeah, Greenlee is like in hockey gear circling them and snaps them back to reality by like doing a slap shot at them. After saying something that I didn't quite catch because I was just like so blown away by the utter stupidity of what was being said at the moment. But yeah, they're basically like all three of them standing in a circle, like putting their arms up and just screaming at each other like pro man shit.
Yeah, just manning out. It's
it's
pretty stupid.
They needed to have their pants off or something.
Seriously, it's pretty dumb. Oh. Yeah, did you have anything else to say about this stupid scene?
No, I would actually highly recommend you look it up because I'm sure it's easy to find.
That's the best thing you can do if you want to get a gist of this movie. Just watch that one scene. That's it.
Just watch that one scene.
It's pretty fucking stupid. My next note just says the vest.
Yeah.
Stupid fucking vest.
Yeah, it's the holster / harness from the first film that Il Duce wore, the 6-gun harness, which only has 4 guns in it, I think. Maybe he added 2 more to it later.
It's 6. There's 6 in the first movie.
But yeah, Da finally tells the boys about the old man and who this old man is. And so he tells the tale, and we get a flashback of him and his Italian friend run around killing a bunch of mobsters. So they went into business together, kind of like the Punisher and Microchip, aka Wayne Knight. Il Duce did all the killing, and the Italian friend was like the fixer, the supplier. And then we cut to the old man, who still has been hidden from us. It's Peter Fonda, making a call to some friend of his, like enlisting some hired muscle. It's a cute little scene where he makes references to needing tomatoes when he clearly has many, and tomatoes is code for muscle.
Yeah.
And then Agent Bloom gets our boys a location for Louis,
aka the old man.
Yeah, he's in a greenhouse in Maine. Sure.
Yeah. Okay,
why is he in Maine? It needs to be said that all the scenes with the old man in Maine in the greenhouse, the color grading is radically different from the rest of the movie. The rest of the movie is pretty flat in the way it's shot, and the way it's lit. It's pretty boring to look at, but everything's like has a tinge, like a blue tinge to it in the old man scenes. So it looks more interesting, which makes me
better.
It looks better to the point that it makes me suspect that it was shot at a different time than the rest of the film, like maybe earlier or later in production, probably earlier. Because if you need Peter Fonda, maybe you'd want to get his stuff done right away.
This is where they spent all the money?
I mean, honestly, that's kind of what it looks like, because I forgot to mention how bad the green screen was when they were swinging on their ropes.
I think that I might have mentioned this briefly before. This Boondock Saints 1 aired at the Cannes Film Festival. And Easy Rider, which Peter Fonda was, I believe, a co-writer for, Dennis Hopper directed, was a big deal. I think that I know Troy Duffy has seen Easy Rider, and I think he probably wanted Dennis Hopper for the part, but I think Dennis Hopper passed away pretty early in the 2000s. But yeah, I think this is why he wanted probably Peter Fonda, was because he was probably a huge fan of Easy Rider and probably saw himself being that next Easy Rider. Like, oh, we're gonna just fucking clean up at the Cannes Film Festival. Like, it's just gonna be incredible.
Well,
Boom.
like I mentioned on the previous episode, Peter Fonda was also doing Ghost Rider and Wild Hogs around this time, so I think he was looking for a paycheck.
But hang out with Nick Cage, like, you could probably get some people like, oh, I could hang out with Nick Cage for a little bit. That doesn't seem too bad.
He had like 10 seconds with Nick Cage, if that.
Still gets to have lunch with Nick Cage. I would love to have lunch with Nick Cage.
I mean, yeah, actually, that'd be kind of cool.
He probably did it just to, like, Nick Cage was so busy. He's like, you know what? I'm not going to be able to pencil you in, but I'm doing this movie. If you want just, like, a quick 10 seconds in there, we can have lunch then. Craft services, of course.
Ghost Rider took it to another level, though, because it's like, so we're doing this superhero movie that has reference to motorcycles. You're that old guy that was in that one movie with that motorcycle, right? You should be in this movie because, like, people will get the reference. And he's just like, I hate you so much.
Well, I mean, it's probably the
you know nothing of my body of work.
It's probably the equivalent of actors doing voiceover, like Charlton Heston doing voiceover, Morgan Freeman. Like, they were just fucking sick of it. Like, I mean, I don't care. Put me in a Zach Braff directed movie. I don't give a shit.
No, I mean, like, Charlton Heston's a perfect example because, like, he's in the Tim Burton Planet of the Apes because he was in the first one
in makeup too.
Yeah, he is what he hates. He is a damn dirty ape.
So yeah, now we get to the end shootout. We're gonna try to wrap this thing up.
Yeah, the final showdown. There's some artful macro shots in here that again feel like they came from a different production.
Yeah,
it's like him like preparing the tomato and like the necklace hanging from the staircase like handrail, and like him putting on the phonograph and stuff. It's like all these shots that's like those look calculated, which makes me not think of Troy Duffy at all.
That's funny. I like the techno music at this end shootout. It felt like Blade for some reason. It just worked for me. I don't know what you thought about this shootout. I thought it was ill-conceived. I don't know who was shooting at who. And I think... Who kills the old man? Who kills Louis?
So before the shooting starts, Billy Connolly goes into the house alone, and he and Peter Fonda, Louis, have a long back and forth sitting
about nothing,
where they sit across from each other. They just kind of talk about stuff. I guess Louis's motivation was that he would, when they were young, he was trying to use Billy Connolly to kill off all the mobsters so he could join the mob, like so he could go to the surviving elements and like become one of them. I thought, based on the young actor's like interpretation of things, his younger self, I thought his angle was going to be that I never wanted to be involved in any of this. You dragged me into it, by killing a guy in front of me and forcing me to come along with you. No, not at all. He's just greedy, and manipulative. But yeah, the shooting, the whole shootout, the choreography is bleh. It's entirely in slow motion. The music actually is okay. Like I didn't mind it at all. Interesting sound editing. Again, not good. Just interesting. Where it's all fascinating. There's no sound effects. It's all music for at least 2/3 of it until our heroes get clipped. At which point the sound gradually comes back in. They do this also with Julie Benz when she's doing a crime scene investigation, where she has her earplugs in, and just for a moment there's no sound, and then when she pulls them out, sound. I think there is an explicit reference to The Killer, the John Woo movie.
I think you're right.
That we recorded in episode 4, but I have yet to post it.
I didn't realize you haven't posted that yet.
It's been a very long time. It's probably been a couple of months, but yeah, there's some cutaway shots to an angel statue being blown up by all the gunfire. If you'll recall, that happens in the church scene in The Killer as well. But yeah, Billy Connolly gets shot. he's injured. Both of the McManus brothers are injured as well. Clifton Collins Jr. just disappears during this.
He's not in here at all. He's
there, but
I don't
in the
remember
aftermath, when the police show up, he's just not there. Did he die?
It's possible.
Maybe.
Not gonna be
I don't.
I can promise you, if there's a Boondock Saints 3, he is nowhere near it.
Well, I mean, you got to continue the cycle where we're continually looking for a replacement David Del Rocco.
At that point, it might be Kevin Spacey, because that's the only thing he's gonna get. And
oh my God, Boondock Saints 3, directed by Troy Duffy, starring Kevin Spacey, shot in China.
If it's not released theatrically, I'm still gonna buy it if that's what happens.
No, it'd be the Boondock Saints go to Japan to kill some, to kill some Japanese business people or something, but they're being backed by the Chinese or something. I could totally see that happening.
About right.
Long story short, Billy Connolly dies, but before that happens, he shoots Louis in the face. And then as the McManuses are leaving the greenhouse, a bunch of cops roll up on them. And in slow motion, we see them drop their guns. So I guess they gave up. And then Agent Bloom, she got herself a new haircut. And she is with not Tom Wilkins, the priest from the beginning of the film. And he's escorting her to safety. So he's helping her leave the country or something. And my note here says, "Oh Jesus, they got Willem back."
Surprise!
Surprise!
I knew this was coming, and I saw him sitting there. I'm like, I would put money down his name is not in the credits. He's like, do not put my name anywhere near this. He probably, I'm assuming he had to come back. I think it was mentioned he might have been contractually obligated to come back and do a scene, or maybe he was just maybe he's just that nice of a guy that he was just like, you know what, I'll do a scene. It'll just be a cameo. If it will help you out with the movie and you leave me the fuck alone after this. Maybe that's what it was. He's like, I'm trying to do 3 of these movies. I tell you what, I'll give you 5 minutes of shooting.
Yeah.
And
watch, this was shot in his backyard, on his personal dock or something.
He's like, yeah, I didn't die. I'm still alive. We got to keep these boys out of prison. We're going to put you on a boat. She's super mad or whatever.
Yeah, by the way, he makes it known, I am gay. I am playing a gay character, just so you know.
I didn't even know. What does he say?
He basically comments on her hairdo.
Oh,
and she was like, I was at your funeral. And he comments on her shoes and her dress. And it's like, okay, he's into fashion. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yeah, did you see Will and Grace? But yeah. And then we cut. He's kind of still talking, and he's like, "There's gonna be a lot of people after these boys. We gotta keep them. We gotta keep them."
Oh,
safe.
he's from Maine now. There's gonna be a lot of people after these boys. Yeah, you gotta watch out for those McManus brothers.
Watch out for those McManus brothers. Sometimes dead is better. So yeah, so the voiceover is going in and. We go to, either we cut to the boys in prison, and we see a bunch of people out on the yard, and it's like, we're about to take your lunch money, punk kind of deal.
Yeah.
And they're like, they're going to be in some serious trouble. And the boys give the guys out in the yard the finger. I'm going to reference Deadpool 2 here, where Deadpool and the kid are in this maximum security prison for mutants where they have these collars that keep them from using their superpower, what makes them strong. And Deadpool ends up getting the shit kicked out of him because he can't heal himself and he doesn't know how to fight. Same deal. These two dipshits need guns to get anything done. And if you have an entire prison full of guys that want to beat your ass, they're going to beat that ass. There's no getting around it.
Yeah,
Maybe don't stick up a middle finger to them.
Yeah. It reminded me of the end of The One. where Jet Li's on the prison planet. He says, I am Eula. I am nobody's bitch. You are mine.
Oh, I remember that one scene. I didn't watch that movie at all. I remember that one scene.
Yeah, that's the very end of the movie. But when Willem Dafoe is talking at Julie Benz, this is where I remember I said put a pin in that. So not Tom Wilkins, the Catholic priest. So she's like, "Why are you helping me?" And he's like, "Oh, the people I work for want to help you and the saints." And she's like, "Who do you work for?" And he's like, "Oh, it doesn't matter. Go talk to Willem Dafoe. He's out on the dock." And then when she's talking to Willem Dafoe, he, I think, explicitly like states like, I'm backed by the largest corporation in the world, and he like gestures to the priest. So I think they're talking about the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
As endorsing the Boondock Saints.
The Roman Catholic Church?
Uh-huh.
Where is Rome?
Far away.
Is it in Italy? Have the Saints not been targeting specifically Italians?
Yeah, I think about like what 90% of the people they kill.
90% of the people they kill.
Maybe a stray Russian or Chinese person here and there, but mostly Italian.
There was a couple Chinese people in there, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, a couple.
Well, people Troy thought looked Chinese.
Yeah, that one guy's Cantonese was not the sharpest, and he was also gigantic. Like,
yeah.
But yeah, that's the Boondock Saints too. All Saints Day.
Yeah, it's pretty stupid. Definitely watch. I mean, I would say watch this movie because if you've seen the first one, you should definitely watch the second one, and for sure watch Overnight.
Yeah, Overnight is the one legit, very good film of the trio. It's very fascinating to take a look into the mind of Mr. Troy Duffy.
It's a fascinating franchise.
It's so strange. Like it I would say it's a product of its time, but it's not. It's a product of like times between times. Like it has no home because the action isn't good, the dialogue isn't great. Why is this?
I think that I Now Pronounce You Chuck and Larry is one of those movies where Adam Sandler's made funny movies. He's made more terrible movies than he's made good. Mm-hmm. But I Now Pronounce You Chuck and Larry is very much of that early 2000s time, post 9/11. For some reason, we were doing okay with gay people in the 90s, and then the 2000s hit, and we were just not feeling it. Post 9/11, and that movie is I hate that movie. Rob Schneider is offensive. The way they handle homosexuality in that movie is really annoying. But it's of that time, and you're like,
very much so.
Understand, and there's nothing. I don't think there's anything personal. The Duffy movies are personal. It's very much. It's just Troy Duffy.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of. Once you've seen him in Overnight, once you've seen the man and how he operates and how he thinks, there are a lot of instances where it's like, yeah, he's just using these characters as a conduit to get his thoughts out there in some fashion.
We need him, man. Get on Twitter, Troy.
All right. Well, on that note, I guess that concludes our evening with Troy Duffy.
Yeah, I don't know what we have in store next week. We still have to figure that out. So stand by.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for listening. Catch you next time.